Chapter 89. Yi Huanyan was reminded by her voice and came back to her senses. Nothing. Thank you for your concern, Miss Sheng. Ling Han glanced at her and said lightly, Do you have a good relationship with Secretary Yi? Shang Anren was slightly stunned. She looked at Ling Han's face and tried to find a trace of emotion to remind her to speak appropriately, but failed. She had to be ambiguous. It's just that I usually see him a lot. After all, he is your right-hand man. I still have to give him face to say hello. Ling Han raised a faint sneer at the corner of his mouth. It's just a secretary. How many do you want? Why bother? A trace of doubt flashed in Shang Anren's eyes. Before she had time to think about it, she saw Ji Xiaoye holding a stack of documents and walking in a hurry with her head down. Thinking of the rumors in the company, her face suddenly turned ugly. That's right. By the way, Han, you still have work to do, so I won't bother you. She pulled her hand out of Ling Han's arm and smiled very cleverly and sensibly. Ling Han nodded slightly and didn't ask much. He went straight into the office. Ji Xiaoye was holding the documents. As soon as she heard the sound, she raised her head and saw Shang Anren, who she always hated, wearing sunglasses and walking towards her. Her insufferably arrogant look was really disgusting. Good morning, Secretary Ji. Shang Anren did not hide the falseness in her smile. Ji Xiaoye shuddered and said coldly, Early in the morning, there's a smell of fox. Shang Anren's face darkened. He was even more certain that Ji Xiaoye had an affair with Ling Han. The corners of his mouth curled up into a sneer. Secretary Ji, you have to be careful when you speak. Do you think that your President Ling will like a brash and domineering little girl like you? Ji Xiaoye followed her eyes and looked at her flat chest. She suddenly got angry. You're all grown up. You're a fox. Hearing this, Shang Anren raised her eyelids slightly, looking high and mighty. I don't know how Han likes you when you are so barbaric. Who are you calling barbaric? Ji Xiaoye glared at her and gritted her teeth. She looked like she was about to fight. I'm talking about you. She walked past Ji Xiaoye. As she adjusted her sunglasses, she deliberately raised her elbow and hit her in the chest. Amidst Ji Xiaoye's exclamation, she directly scattered the photocopied documents in her hands all over the floor. You! Stop right there. Xiao Yu. Yi Huanyan came out of the secretary's office and hurriedly grabbed Ji Xiaoye, who looked like she was about to kill someone. What are you doing? That smelly vixen, how dare she deliberately bump into me? While Yi Huanyan was tugging on Ji Xiaoye, her swaying hips had already disappeared from their sight. Yi Huanyan was very pleased with herself. All right, just pick up the things you dropped. I'll help you pick them up. No, Yi Huanyan. Seeing Yi Huanyan squatting down to pick things up, Ji Xiaoye got angry. Looking at Yi Huanyan squatting down to pick things up, she suddenly thought of the scene just now. She questioned, Do you not have a temper? Why did this woman come with Ling Han just now? What exactly happened to you last night? Yi Huanyan paused in the act of picking up the things. She folded the papers and handed them to Ji Xiaoye. Pick them up yourself. I still have something to discuss with Director Ling. Hey. Ji Xiaoye grabbed her arm with concern in her eyes. You have to tell me if there's anything. Don't force yourself. Yi Huanyan had her back to her, and her eyes were slightly red. She hummed in agreement and then entered the director's office without looking back. Ling Han received a call from Qiao Mu as soon as he arrived at the office. The rectification plan for use in media has been issued. I heard that all the departments are prioritizing promoting senior management from within the department. They are very enthusiastic, and their initial resistance is gone. Yes, there will definitely be some people who are restless. Pay more attention. Understood. On the other end of the phone, Qiao Mu hesitated for a moment before asking. Director Ling, there was a landslide on the Shanglong line last night, and several places collapsed. I heard that many cars traveling at night were in trouble. Secretary Yi, is she okay? Speaking of this, Ling Han recalled seeing the tow truck from the 4S store at the entrance of the residential area this morning to tow away the car with the very familiar license plate number. His face darkened a bit. His tone was cold. "She's fine, but your car was sent to the 4S store for repair this morning." "Ha!" The person on the other end of the phone exclaimed, "How come?" "I'll inform the finance department to deduct the money from your salary." "Director Ling, you lent the car yourself, so you have to bear the consequences yourself." Chiao Mu still wanted to say something, but Ling Han had already hung up the phone impatiently. A person who could drive a car into a guardrail dared to drive from Shanghai to Lanjiang in the heavy rain last night? There was a knock on the office door, followed by a familiar voice. "Director Ling, come in." Ling Han responded faintly and opened the folder in his hand. "This morning, Assistant Li handed over Assistant Chiao's follow-up work to me. After weighing the pros and cons, I think it's more important to complete the contract renewal with Chile Media first." Yi Huanyan took a deep breath. "So I've been a bit busy recently. Let's leave the plan of the company's artists and staff to the planning department. I don't think I have the time." "Oh." Ling Han looked up, his eyes burning like torches. "You don't have the time?" Yi Huanyan felt uncomfortable under his gaze, so she lowered her head to avoid his gaze. "Yes, about the contract renewal. The contracts of several artists in the company have also expired, and we need to discuss the contract renewal. Then put all these things into the plan of the trip." Yi Huanyan looked up abruptly and stared at Ling Han in a daze. "You mean, we should send them invitations?" "But..." The company had a tradition of inviting partners to participate in the trip plan, but these people were usually very busy. When they received the invitation, most of them would ask their secretaries to call back to thank them, and then they would go back to their own work. Very few would actually participate. "Don't talk to me about buts. I said that all artists and staff must participate this time, so you must invite these clients and artists who want to renew their contracts. When you work, it will be the same. Twice the effort and half the result." "Twice the effort and half the result?" Yi Huanyan's face froze. He was clearly making things difficult for her. "If you can't do these things, I can ask someone else to do it. I think Secretary Ji has been very free recently. Let me do it." Yi Huanyan gritted her teeth and quickly agreed. "What I mean is, Secretary Ji will help you complete this task." Ling Han glanced at her with disdain. "If you can't even do such a small thing, you don't have to come to work before the end of the year. We'll do it." Ever since she came out of the CEO's office, Yi Huanyan's face had been tense. Ling Han knew that Ji Xiaoye's family background was not good. Even though she had such a high salary every month, she sent most of it home. That was why she lived in such an old-fashioned neighborhood with bad security. However, she had a carefree personality and didn't know how to spend money. After sending money home, she spent all the rest. If she lost this job, wouldn't she go hungry? Chapter 90. The photocopies are on your desk, Yen Yen. Ji Xiaoye stuffed a potato chip into her mouth and pointed at Yi Huanyan's desk. Yi Huanyan came back to her senses and responded. She returned to her seat and flipped through 2 pages of messy photocopies. She frowned and said, "Xiaoyu, you'll have to complete the group trip with me." "No problem. I'm very free anyway. If there's anything to do, just leave it to me. I'll do it. It's not just about the photocopies. I'm afraid you'll have to meet some clients separately with me." "Meet clients?" Ji Xiaoye was nervous. She suddenly crushed the potato chip in her hand and the crumbs fell to the floor. The corners of her mouth twitched. Yen Yen, are you kidding me? She hated talking to businessmen the most. When she first joined the company's planning department, it was because the planning department only needed to come up with proposals and ideas. It didn't need to have too many personnel disputes like other departments. Yi Huanyan had no choice but to repeat Ling Han's order. She looked at Ji Xiaoye's shocked face and pursed her lips. "If I could do it on my own, I wouldn't ask you to do it. After all, he's the one who wants to make things difficult for me. It has nothing to do with you." Ji Xiaoye finally closed her mouth and thought quickly. Wait a minute. He's making things difficult for you. Why is he making things difficult for you again? Didn't you just get along well with each other? Damn it. Last night. Thinking about what happened last night, Yi Huanyan covered her chest and suddenly felt disgusted. She turned around and ran in the direction of the bathroom. Ji Xiaoye was stunned for a few seconds. She threw down the potato chip box and ran after her. Are you okay? She helped to pat Yi Huanyan's back. I'm fine. I just thought about what happened last night and felt a little disgusted. Leaning against the washstand in the bathroom, Yi Huanyan's face flashed with a trace of pain. You may not believe me, but even after seeing what happened last night, I still refuse to give up. Ji Xiaoye frowned. She didn't know what to say. She could only hold her cold hand tightly. It doesn't matter. We are sisters. I will help you. Don't you just want to chase us away? How could it be that easy? Isn't it just a few clients? What's so difficult about settling them? But Ling Han only gave us 3 days to prepare. The planning department needed a month to prepare, but Ling Han only gave her 3 days. It was obvious that he wanted her and Ji Xiaoye to pack up and leave. 3 days. Ji Xiaoye almost bit her tongue. The corners of her mouth twitched. How ruthless. Back in the office, Yi Huanyan flipped open a document on the table and placed it in front of Ji Xiaoye. There are a total of 12 important clients. Besides the 4 who are overseas, we have to invite the remaining 8. Besides these, there are also 19 A-list and B-list artists in the company. Oh my God, those little foxes and those old foxes. I don't want to deal with any of them. Ji Xiaoye hugged her head. She felt that she had encountered the biggest disaster of her life. Do you believe it? I wasn't even this nervous when I took the art exam. Then do you think it's harder to get the artists or the clients? You can choose one. You can start working in the afternoon. They're both difficult. How can I not choose? You can also try to find a job before the end of the year. Ji Xiaoye's face stiffened. Don't joke around. Which company would dare to offend Ling Han without a proper reason? If I leave here, I'll be unemployed. I'll choose an artist. I'll choose this Guan Nai. I'll go look for this Guan Nai in the afternoon. Are you sure? Guan Nai is famous for her bad temper. She's a rising star. She even dares to look down on Shang Anren. I know, but I think the others are even harder to deal with. Ji Xiaoye spread her hands. I choose Guan Nai. I'll take this Guan Nai. If I can't get her, I'll take her surname. Yi Huanyan sighed helplessly and handed Guan Nai's information to her. Take a good look. Remember to cater to her interests. In the afternoon, Ji Xiaoye set off to lobby the artists after lunch. Yi Huanyan still had to stay in the secretary's office to deal with the secretary's work. She could only take out the client list and analyze it one by one in her free time. Today, all the departments in the company seemed to have made an appointment. All the documents were sent up at once. Even the financial statements, which had been delayed for several days, were sent up in advance today. When it was time to get off work, Yi Huanyan finished reading the last proposal. She hammered her waist and sent the proposal into the office. Perhaps the knock on the door was too light to be heard inside. She opened the door and saw Ling Han sleeping on the desk. Almost all the documents piled up on the desk had been dealt with. She sighed silently in her heart. Ling Han's extraordinary work efficiency had indeed made her feel powerless. It was not something that an ordinary person could do. She was already having a headache just reviewing the basic data of the documents, and what he needed to see was the question of whether the data was real or not. Ling Han was awakened by the weight on his shoulder. The defense system in his mind automatically activated and he instantly grabbed a hand on his shoulder. Following Yi Huanyan's cry of surprise, he frowned and the suit jacket that was half draped over his shoulders fell to the ground beside his feet. He frowned and shook off Yi Huanyan's hand. What are you doing? Yi Huanyan was pushed back a few steps by the force of him shaking off her. She staggered and held onto the corner of the table to stabilize herself. She held her wrist that was hurting and said in pain, "Seeing that you were asleep, I was just afraid that you would catch a cold." Ling Han held his forehead and glanced at her coldly. "You don't have to do such useless things. What did you come in for? The planning department has revised the documents. Just leave them there." His attitude was cold and stiff. Yi Huanyan stood there for a few seconds and walked a few steps before turning back. "Have you not recovered from your cold?" Ling Han's fingers paused on the cover of the document. After a few seconds of silence, his cold voice rang out in the room without any warmth. "Secretary Yi, instead of worrying about my cold, why don't you worry about whether you can make it to the end of the year? A smart person would have already contacted the headhunter company by now." "Alright, I've already asked Ling to pack your things. Since you don't want to go back to the old mansion, I don't want Grandma to worry too much about me. You can go back to where you used to live after work." Yi Huanyan's face sank bit by bit. Her voice trembled. "You want me to leave home?" It was only now that she realized that this time, Ling Han didn't just want to make things difficult for her. He really wanted her to pack her things and leave this place. "Why? That's not your home, Secretary Yi. You're just a secretary in the company. In your original home, you're just a burden that Jiang Milan brought along. You have nothing to do with the Ling family. And now, I feel that no matter where I am, I don't want to see you again." "Why?" "I'm tired of it." Ling Han looked up, his deep eyes bottomless. "No matter what it is, I'm tired of your body." Chapter 91. Before she got off work, Yi Huanyan received a call from Ji Xiaoye. She didn't listen to what was said on the other end of the line. After she hung up, she reached out and hailed a cab. "Miss, where are you going?" "Jinjiang Court." She didn't believe that Ling Han was such a heartless person. When she returned to Ling Han's villa, she looked at the empty room she lived in. Her heart felt empty. Everything that belonged to her had been packed away. Ling looked like she wanted to say something but stopped. After hesitating for a while, she had no choice but to speak. "Miss Yi, when young master left this morning, he said, to pack your things and you have to move out." She held onto the door frame and forced a smile. "I know. If you don't mind, I would like to walk around. Young master might come back late today. Why don't you have dinner before you leave?" "I'll go cook now. It's not too late." "It's okay. You should rest. I'll leave in a while." Ling looked at the dejected figure and sighed helplessly. Why did the young master treat Miss Yi like this with his unpredictable personality? Yi Huanyan knew that Ling Han had made up his mind to let her go this time. He didn't throw a tantrum at her and didn't show any emotions. In his eyes, she could only see disgust. Her hand touched the bed that she had slept on. It was pure white and flawless. New bedsheets had been changed, but why could she still smell the scent of another woman in the air? It made her stomach churn. She held her chest and walked to Ling Han's bedroom. The nausea in her stomach gradually calmed down. Ling Han's room was cold. The walls were dark blue and the sheets were dark gray. It was like a room in the deep sea. She felt stuffy as soon as she entered. She took a deep breath and felt a little better. She didn't dare to stay for too long and turned to leave. From the corner of her eye, she suddenly saw the safe by the bed. It wasn't closed. She frowned and hesitated for a while before deciding to close it for him. Maybe there were some important confidential documents inside. When her fingers touched the door of the safe, her eyes froze. There was only one open black suede box in the cupboard. The lid was turned to one side, revealing a palm-sized piece of white napkin. In the middle of the napkin was a sketch of a blue character drawn with a ballpoint pen. That person had an unnatural smile on his face. His face was a little stiff and angular, and his eyes were dark and bottomless. Although he put on a sullen expression, there was a trace of doting in his eyes. Many years ago, when she was about to take the art examination, Jiang Milan and Ling Dongming were on a business trip and were not at home. She begged him and dragged him to a small restaurant for a meal. "Big brother Ling Han, my teacher said that I'm very talented in drawing, especially sketching people, so you don't have to worry too much about my exams. You're the one who's worried. Of course not. You've already said that sentence 3 times. But it's really what teacher said. My character sketches will definitely pass. The 4th time. Yi Huanyan lowered her head and was a little dejected. Her originally excited expression disappeared. Okay. To be honest, my teacher said that my character sketches are very bad and I can't capture the charm of the person. Ling Han, who was sitting opposite her in casual clothes, glanced at her indifferently. So, if you can't pass this year, then you can take the exam next year. What's the big deal? But then I'll have to wait another year. Wait for what? Uncle Ling said that he can marry you after graduation. Facing Ling Han's puzzled gaze, Yi Huanyan covered her mouth. No, nothing. Do you want me to draw for you? Uncle Ling said that you're very good at drawing. No. Objection overruled. Anyway, sit here. I'll be quick. Yi Huanyan giggled and raised her arm. Boss, lend me a pen. 8 years have passed in a flash. He still keeps a sketch portrait from 8 years ago? Yi Huanyan couldn't believe it. She thought of the photo she found in his office before. She felt that it couldn't be something to humiliate a person. Ling Han, what are you thinking? A faded diary at the head of the bed attracted her attention. She frowned, and her fingers involuntarily touched the open book. It was obvious that it had been there for some years. It was a lace design, which didn't seem to belong to a man. Is it a woman's thing? Outside the villa, a red sports car stopped behind the green plants in the distance. Behind the windshield, a delicate face was hidden under the gray fur vest. Shang Anren frowned and stared at the door of Ling Han's villa. She was more and more confused. Last night was the first time she went to Ling Han's residence. She deliberately wet her clothes because she didn't want to leave. Unexpectedly, there was an unexpected gain. Why are there women's coats and pajamas in Ling Han's house? It's still brand new. The style of the coat is completely the clothes worn by women in the workplace. She came here in the morning and met Ling Han, but she didn't find anything strange. She came again in the afternoon. The woman who had just entered was obviously Ling Han's secretary Yi Huanyan. She frowned. Wasn't it Ji Xiaoye who had an affair with Ling Han? Yi Huanyan had been in for a while. She couldn't bear it. Her fingers touched the door switch. At this time, a black car slowly drove into the community and stopped at the door of the villa. Ling Han's figure got out of the car, handed over the bag in his hand to the maid who came out to greet him, and then pulled the tie around his neck and walked into the house. Shang Anren's face was stiff, and she slowly withdrew her fingers. Compared with figuring out the relationship between Yi Huanyan and Ling Han, it's more important not to violate Ling Han's orders. In the living room, Ling Ling put away Ling Han's coat and hesitantly looked upstairs. Ling Han's eyes fell on the high-heeled shoes at the entrance, and his face sank. Yi Huanyan is here? Ling Ling's face was stiff, and she quickly covered it up. Miss Yi seems to have left something here, so she came back to get it. What did she have? Why did she leave it here? Ling Han looked up and saw that the door of the master bedroom was open. A trace of anger climbed up his eyebrows. He pulled off his tie and threw it on the sofa, and strode upstairs. The door of the master bedroom was half open, and the dim light inside faintly came through. Yi Huanyan's vision was getting blurrier and blurrier. She held the edge of the diary and read every word in it over and over again in disbelief. I know the relationship between that woman and Dong Ming, and I also know that Dong Ming only has guilt for me. If there is no guilt, I'm afraid there is only boredom, right? In fact, it's very good. I don't intend to make a fuss. Han is back. No matter what, Han is his son. But she asked to meet me. I didn't think that I was so cowardly to let this woman think that I can voluntarily abdicate. It's really ridiculous. Her fingertips rubbed over the 2 words Han, and her eyes were full of tears. Yi Huanyan had never thought that her mother, a woman who was fierce and resolute but kind and gentle in her bones, would interfere in someone else's family, and even do it so brazenly. Chapter 92. What are you doing? A sullen voice resounded throughout the room. Yi Huanyan's hand trembled, and the diary slipped from her hand. It fell to the ground with a muffled sound. The diary, which was already open, was now in pieces in front of her eyes. As he opened the door, the wind blew through the room, raising pieces of the past that she did not dare to look at directly. That was the naked and cruel truth. It was also the reason why Ling Han's attitude towards her had been so unpredictable for so long. She should have thought of it long ago. She should have thought of it long ago. She should have thought of why he always liked to compare her to herself even after Jiang Mailan had passed away for so long. She had heard such words countless times and should have thought of it long ago. The figure at the door walked to the bed and stared at her coldly. Her face stiffened, and the tears in her eyes fell like pearls from a broken string. She hurriedly avoided his gaze and squatted down to pick up the scattered pieces of paper. She was incoherent and humble. "I'm sorry, I'll pick them up. I'll pick them up now." She was sorry. She was the one who had let him down. It turned out that she was really the one who had let him down. "There's no need. I think if my mother was still alive, she wouldn't want you to touch her things." Yi Huanyan's fingers paused slightly, and she said mechanically, "I'm sorry." "You've read the diary, haven't you?" The voice from above her head was cold. The condescending attitude was very arrogant, but it was so natural. She squatted on the ground. Her legs and feet were numb, and her nerves seemed to have become sluggish. She seemed to be able to feel the blood in her body coagulating bit by bit. Her heart was beating very slowly, and her vision was blurry. She seemed to be unable to make a sound from her throat. "Since you know, hurry up and get lost." She gripped the yellowed paper in her hand tightly. Under such circumstances, she realized that there was still a trace of unwillingness in her heart. Her voice trembled. "You're treating me like this because my mother interfered in the marriage between Uncle Ling and your mother?" A trace of gloominess flashed across Ling Han's brows. "Don't forget, you asked for it that night. I can apologize on behalf of my mother, but that's the matter of the previous generation. What does it have to do with us?" Yi Huanyan held the diary and forced herself to raise her head, as if this was the only way she could convince herself. "My mom said that we have to look forward. I'm very sorry about this, but—" "No buts. Just leave. I don't want to see you again." Ling Han interrupted her and said impatiently, "I'm not interested in you. You've already repaid what you deserve. But you still have the sketch I drew for you, the one from 8 years ago. You still have my photo. Ling Han, do you dare to say that you don't have me in your heart?" Yi Huanyan held the napkin in her other hand. She was unwilling to accept this. She knew that Ling Han had her in his heart. Even if Jiang Mailan was a mistress back then, even if her mother had interfered in this man's family, she had already suffered on behalf of her mother. Now, did he want her to leave? She couldn't. Ever since she was young, Jiang Mailan had taught her to reflect on herself and not take responsibility for other people's mistakes. That was the behavior of a saint, and it would only make her unhappy for the rest of her life. Ling Han's gaze froze on the sketch. The wind howled outside the window, and there seemed to be a storm in his eyes. The piece of paper was torn to pieces in front of Yi Huanyan's eyes, just like the photo. "It's just a piece of paper. How much weight do you think it has? Yi Huanyan, you think too highly of yourself." Upon hearing this, she heaved a sigh of relief as she looked at the pieces of paper flying in the air. She was terrifyingly calm. "Go ahead and tear it. I know you have me in your heart. So what if you tear it to pieces? I'm not leaving. I don't care if you want me to stay to atone for my mother's sins or torture me. I'm not leaving. Even if your mother is still alive, she definitely doesn't want you to be troubled by their matters." Ling Han's eyes gradually turned red. He lifted up the cold and scary woman on the carpet and held her so tightly that she almost couldn't breathe. "You want to atone for Jiang Mailan's sins? What do you mean by that? How much do you know?" Yi Huanyan's face gradually turned green, but she gritted her teeth and refused to say a word. "Since you feel that these mistakes can only fall on me, no matter what it is, I'm willing to accept it. Her body flew through the air, and under his enormous strength, she fell onto the bed. It did not hurt, but her internal organs were knocked to the point that she almost suffocated. She gritted her teeth in pain, unwilling to let out a weak cry of alarm, and this action angered Ling Han. "Who do you think you are? Other than making love to me in bed, what else can you accept?" His breathing was very heavy, and it swept across his neck, leaving behind a shiver. Both of their chests rose and fell violently. As they rose and fell, they were pressed together, then separated, and pressed together again. Yi Huanyan gritted her teeth and gripped the blanket under her. Every word was very clear in the dark night. "Whatever. As long as you want it, I'll give it to you. I'll even give you my life." Ling Han stared at her coldly. His red eyes were filled with anger. It was in this anger that his gaze swept across the bed under him. He suddenly sneered and leaned down to whisper in her ear. Then, under her terrified and shocked gaze, a pair of hands tore open her shirt mercilessly. In the mess in the room, in the long accumulated resentment, in her messy cries, he wanted her ruthlessly again and again. Until her entire body went limp, until her moans drowned out the howling wind outside the window, until her tears dried up, and even her breathing could affect the pain all over her body. The wave-like pain gradually numbed her senses. She lay on the bed like a broken doll, looking at the man beside the bed in fear. His shoulders were very wide, as if they could support her world, but his shoulders were not her home. Her mind replayed the scene of him panting softly in her ear before the storm. "Jiang Mylan couldn't wait to take you over, so she couldn't even wait for the last month of my mother's cancer. She created a car accident and deceived everyone. She laid on my mother's bed. Wouldn't she have nightmares?" She stared at him in a daze, not daring to believe what she had heard. "You don't believe me? This bed belongs to my mother. Every night when I lie down, I remember that the marriage that was interrupted is not just a grudge between the previous generation. It is a stain that was caused by Jiang Mylan and Ling Dongming. Even if you don't know about it, it is still a stain that can't be washed away from you." Her expression was numb, and her grip on the blanket gradually loosened. There was no fluctuation in her tone, as if she was asking a question, but also as if she was just stating a statement. "Just because I'm Jiang Mylan's daughter? Jiang Mylan is the murderer who killed my mother." Ling Han slowly turned his head, looking terrifyingly calm. "Since you're so unwilling to leave, then stay. This bed will be yours from now on." Her fingers touched the bedsheets, and her body trembled for no reason. She was suddenly awakened, as if there were thorns on the bed. She suddenly turned over and fell off the bed, shrinking into a corner. Chapter 93. How scary was the truth? She would rather not know anything. How deep was the gap that she thought she could cross? She would rather not have tested it. The night was really cold. "Are you scared? Then get out of here and never appear in front of me again." When she ran out of the villa with her coat wrapped around her, it started to rain. It was a cold winter night rain, and it fell on her face, body, and everywhere. The taxi slowly drove by. The window rolled down, revealing Ji Xiaoye's face. "Yen Yen. Sir, please stop the car." "Yen Yen, what's wrong with you?" Ji Xiaoye looked at the villa in the distance anxiously and angrily. In the end, she decided to take care of Yi Huanyan first. She pulled the car door and ordered, "Sir, please go to the nearest hospital." The yellow taxi disappeared at the entrance of the neighborhood. This scene fell into the red sports car. Behind the windshield, the pair of eyes under the large sunglasses could be seen. Apart from the anger, there was a trace of doubt on her face. She flipped the cover of her phone and dialed a familiar number. "Let me ask you something. Where do the two secretaries of Ling Han live?" "I just saw Secretary Yi come out of Ling Han's house." "The two of them? It's so late. Get the documents?" Shang Anren muttered doubtfully and frowned at the phone. "Don't lie to me. I trust you so much." In the hospital, Yi Huanyan had a low fever. She kept murmuring in a coma. "It's my fault, it's my fault. Don't go. I'm sorry. Ji Xiaoya frowned and looked at the pale face on the hospital bed. She took the test report and went to the attending doctor's office. Her lower body is severely torn and there are bruises all over her body. In the attending doctor's office, the doctor looked at Ji Xiaoya with a frown and pushed the glasses on the bridge of his nose. These don't look like lacerations caused by one night. Is it the same person? What's going on? What's your relationship with the patient? I'm her good friend. Ji Xiaoya's expression was very ugly. She didn't need to think to know who was behind this. This man was really crazy. She stammered in front of the doctor for a long time, but she couldn't say anything. In the end, the doctor became anxious and slammed the table. If you don't explain it clearly, it's not easy for me to do it. Over here, you're not a prostitution organization, right? I see that this girl is very young. I'm going to call the police and let the Women and Children's Union take care of this matter. I don't believe it. Isn't this taking human life as a joke? Ji Xiaoya's heart tightened. She had no choice but to clench her teeth and squeeze out a tear. Dr. Li, my friend's brain isn't very good. She has a boyfriend who has a special hobby. I tried to persuade her to break up with him, but she wouldn't listen. This kind of thing isn't easy to say. You know it too. This time, she went overboard. It's really just a simple relationship with a person, not with... that kind of thing has too many tricks. It's easy to get hurt, such as... It was somewhat difficult for her to say this kind of thing, but she was very enthusiastic about talking nonsense and slandering Ling Han. The doctor couldn't listen to her anymore and broke out in a cold sweat. Knock, knock, knock. He was saved by a knock on the door. Come in. Director Li, the family of the patient in bed 2 is here. Do you want to see them? Dr. Li frowned and glanced at Ji Xiaoya. Forget it. You reminded him to be careful. It's not a joke to kill someone. I'm not going. It's so bad. You young people are really bad nowadays. Ji Xiaoya smiled embarrassedly. She was puzzled. What family member? Thinking of the only person who could be regarded as Yi Huanyan's family member now, she was furious. With a gloomy face, she walked toward the ward in a threatening manner. There were a few nurses gathered outside the ward, chattering non-stop. That man is so tall and has a good figure. How can he be a beast? Haven't you heard of a beast in human clothing? I see that he's wearing a mask tightly. He might be very ugly. Get out of my way. The group of nurses at the door scattered in shock. Ji Xiaoya took a deep breath and pushed open the door. She shouted at the back of the man in front of the bed. You bastard, I'm not going to fight with you today. The man turned his head, only revealing a pair of dark eyes with light eye makeup. A few strands of dark blue hair spilled out from under the cap, exuding a faint blue light under the ward's light. Obviously, he wasn't Ling Han. Ji Xiaoya stopped abruptly and stared at the man's eyes for a few seconds. Then, she covered her mouth and exclaimed, Su Nianhua? Why are you here? Shu. Su Nianhua raised his finger and glanced behind her. Ji Xiaoya immediately understood and turned to open the door. What are you looking at? What's wrong with your hospital? How can you crowd around a patient like this? I'm going to file a complaint. Her words scared the rest of the nurses and made them run away. After shooing the group of people away, she pulled the curtain of the visitation window and covered the single ward tightly. Su Nianhua's delicate voice sounded in the room. Why is she hospitalized? Is she having a fever? I guess so. It's not very serious. She should be fine tomorrow or the day after. Ji Xiaoya pulled a chair and sat on the other side of the bed, distancing herself from Su Nianhua. Yi Huanyan had told her not to get too close to him. This was in front of her. She was still unconscious. She couldn't be too excited, right? Even though she was really excited. I just finished my work and called her. The nurse picked up the phone and found out that she was hospitalized. At this moment, Su Nianhua had already taken off his mask, revealing a face that hadn't had time to remove his makeup. He was probably afraid of being discovered, so he didn't dare to take off his mask. The heater in the ward was on and it was very hot, so at this moment, his cheeks were beaded with sweat. He looked at Ji Xiaoye hesitantly. She should have told you that we've known each other for a long time, right? Ji Xiaoye was slightly stunned. She recalled that at the entrance of the company last time, a certain someone had stammered to cover up the matter. She blinked and said, yes, she did, but she didn't say too much. I guess you know. He sighed. Xiao Yu, I did ask you out for a meal to get close to her. I apologize. Ji Xiaoye pursed her lips. I knew that a pie in the sky wouldn't fall on my head for no reason. Su Nianhua's eyes were a little apologetic. I'm really sorry. But it's not easy to get the chance to take advantage of your best friend. Ji Xiaoye grinned. I forgive you. Su Nianhua was slightly stunned and seemed a little surprised. But as compensation, you have to tell me how you and Yan Yan know each other. Don't you know? Yan Yan only said a little. I want to know more, can't I? Sigh, I won't tell anyone. I'm Yan Yan's best friend. Don't you believe that I can keep a secret? That's not what I meant. Su Nianhua's face stiffened. I know that you're her best friend. Then tell me, if you still want to pretend to be her family member and accompany her here. Is this a threat? Yes. Do you accept it? Ji Xiaoye raised her eyebrows and looked sly. I can only accept it. Su Nianhua looked at Ji Xiaoye helplessly. He thought about the past and then looked at the person on the hospital bed. He was somewhat depressed. Chapter 94. In the hospital ward. Su Nianhua continued to talk about the events from 10 years ago. 10 years was too long, so he couldn't remember everything clearly. However, with such a slow recollection, the past slowly came back to him bit by bit. He was shocked to realize that he could still remember the first time they met. Yi Huanyan had a ponytail, and the hair tie was black with 2 cute orange balls tied to the ends. Ji Xiaoye looked like a fangirl watching an idol interview live. She covered her face and sighed. Oh my god, my idol is my best friend's first love? This is too bizarre. Su Nianhua lowered his head and forced a smile. Now that the story is over, can I ask you a few questions? Go ahead, go ahead. How is she doing now? The girl on the hospital bed was so pale that no blood could be seen on her face. Even though she was asleep, she would struggle in her sleep from time to time. Previously, when he heard that her mother had passed away 2 years ago in Shanghai, he went back and thought about it a lot. In this world, she probably didn't have any relatives. Ji Xiaoye scratched her head and avoided Su Nianhua's gaze. She's doing okay. She doesn't have to worry about food and clothes. She's the CEO's secretary in the top film and television company in the country. Her annual salary is in the millions. So she's doing pretty well. After saying this, Ji Xiaoye felt a little guilty and felt more and more uncomfortable. She gritted her teeth and said in a low voice, other than her relationship problems, she's really blessed by the heavens. Relationship? Su Nianhua turned around and looked at her. You mean, she has a boyfriend? I don't think so. Ji Xiaoye didn't know how to explain this, so her brows were deeply furrowed. I can't say much about this kind of thing. If there's a chance, wait until Yan Yan wakes up. Ask her yourself. Su Nianhua's gaze fell on Yi Huanyan's face again. He was already feeling guilty, but now he was blaming himself even more. Even if Ji Xiaoye didn't say anything, it was obvious that her boyfriend didn't treat her well. Otherwise, why would he let her lie here alone? If they hadn't broken up back then, they would be doing very well now. Ji Xiaoye felt for her vibrating cell phone. After looking at the caller ID, she frowned and glanced at Su Nianhua. You and Yan Yan can be alone for a while. I'm going out to take this call. It was a call from Ling Han. Ji Xiaoye walked to the entrance of the corridor. After confirming that no one was watching, she pressed the answer button and asked in annoyance. Chief Ling, what business do you have in the middle of the night? Where's Yi Huanyan? A cold voice came from the other end of the phone. As soon as she heard this voice, Ji Xiaoye couldn't suppress the anger in her heart. She jumped up and shouted at the top of her voice, "Shouldn't you be the one who knows best where she is? Why are you asking me now?" Ling Han, can you be a little more conscientious? Yan Yan likes you so much. Don't you know in your heart that Yan Yan likes you so much? Why do you have to hurt her again and again? 2 days ago, I thought you had already thought it through. What's wrong with you now? You. The other end of the phone was silent for a few seconds. Come to me at work tomorrow to get a letter of recommendation. After you come back from the company trip, go to the personnel office to go through the resignation procedures. Resign. Before Ji Xiaoye could finish speaking, the phone call was hung up. F***CK, what letter of recommendation? You want to fire me? Do you think I'm afraid of you? I have hands and feet, so can't I find a job on my own? I don't need your pity even if I beg for food. The next morning, Ji Xiaoye stood hesitantly in front of Ling Han's desk with 2 letters of recommendation in her hands. She couldn't believe it. President Ling, are you really going to recommend Yan Yan and me to Fengshang? Fengshang was the most famous fashion magazine in China. Almost every artist was proud of being on the cover of Fengshang. As long as they were on Fengshang, almost all of them could get a high-end brand endorsement within a year. Because Fengshang itself was a symbol of a big brand. The annual salary and position will be the same as now. If you have other requirements, you can also mention it to their editor-in-chief. But whether you can do it or not depends on you. Ji Xiaoye looked at the letter of recommendation in her hands with almost shining eyes. It was not just the benefits of the position and annual salary. Fengshang was such a big brand magazine. High heels, branded bags, perfume, lipstick, skin care, it was simply a paradise for girls. Her eyes swept over Ling Han's cold face and she instantly sobered up. She coughed dryly and said, "President Ling, it's not that I don't want to work in your company. I actually think it's quite good to work under you." Good my ass. She couldn't wait to leave. If it wasn't for the sake of money, who could bear to see her best friend being destroyed every day? She didn't even have the mood to eat potato chips. If there's nothing else, you can leave. Also, remember to transfer the travel plan to the second planning department before you leave. Ling Han's indifference was within her expectations. She secretly rolled her eyes, and before she left, she asked a question. This letter of recommendation, don't you plan to give it to Yan Yan yourself? Ling Han's indifferent expression seemed to have loosened. After a while, he said coldly, "No need. If she had a little self-awareness, she wouldn't have come to see me again." Ji Xiaoye frowned and looked at Ling Han in confusion. What exactly happened last night? How could the two of them fight like this? Although she thought about it, she didn't have the courage to ask. When Yi Huanyan woke up in the hospital, it was already afternoon. The nurse pulled out the 4 drip for her and the pain on the back of her hand woke her up with a start. "Miss Yi, you're awake?" The nurse put away the 4 drip and smiled. "This is the hospital? Isn't it the hospital? Your friend sent you here. Last night, your boyfriend also came and stayed with you the whole night. Oh right, before he left this morning, he told me to tell you to rest well. The company has already taken leave, so you don't have to rush to work." Yi Huanyan was stunned. Did Ling Han come? After the nurse left, she tried to sit up on the bed. A tearing pain in her lower body made her gasp. Large beads of cold sweat appeared on her forehead. She held the edge of the bed for a long time before she could regain her senses. Last night. The phone beside the bed rang and interrupted her painful memories. Ji Xiaoye's chattering voice came from the phone. She seemed to have received some good news and was jumping for joy. "I knew you were awake. Wait for me. I bought food for you and brought it to the hospital. I have good news for you." "All right, what do you want to eat?" Yi Huanyan pulled the corners of her mouth and forced a bitter smile. "Anything will do. Anything light will do." Her weak body made her uninterested in anything, but she couldn't bear to reject Ji Xiaoye's kindness. "How about this? You haven't recovered yet. I'll go and see if there's anything that can help you recover. I'll buy some for you. Okay. After hanging up the phone, the ward fell into silence. It was evening. The light of the setting sun outside the window bloomed little by little. You thought it was blooming, you thought it was very dazzling, but you didn't know that after this short moment of light, it was a chaotic night. Chapter 95. As soon as the sun went down, Ji Xiaoye appeared at the door of the ward with a thermos. She was wrapped tightly in a beige coat and a grey scarf. As soon as she entered the room, she brought a gust of cold wind. She unwrapped the scarf and stomped her feet in front of the bed. Damn the weather. It was above 0 yesterday, but after the rain, it dropped a few degrees. I'm freezing. Didn't you take a taxi? I don't have money, so I took the bus. I spent all my savings for this month to get you admitted to the hospital last night. You have to pay me back as soon as you're discharged. Otherwise, I'll really have to eat. The bank card is in my bag. You can take it yourself. Yi Huanyan's face was pale, and her voice was very weak. I won't tease you any more. I don't have that much money. I took the bank card from your bag last night. The password hasn't been changed for so many years. I have a conscience. Other people would have taken your money away. Ji Xiaoye rubbed her hands and opened the thermos. She giggled. Let's not talk about this. I brought you fish soup. Drink it while it's hot. Yi Huanyan forced a smile and drank 2 mouthfuls of soup from Ji Xiaoye's hand. You didn't make it yourself, right? After drinking it, she felt a warmth in her lower abdomen. The faint smell of the medicine box in the soup spread in the ward. I asked the housekeeper to help me. Ji Xiaoye stuffed the thermos into Yi Huanyan's hand and guiltily avoided her eyes. Drink it yourself. Yi Huanyan didn't suspect anything. She held the spoon and slowly drank the soup. The taste of the soup was quite familiar. She didn't have much appetite, but after drinking 2 mouthfuls, she felt quite comfortable. Ji Xiaoye tilted her head and took something out of her bag. She couldn't help but think of the inexplicable scene before she got off work. Before she got off work, Ling Han called her to the office and magically brought out a thermos. His tone was very stiff as he asked her to bring it to the hospital. To be honest, she really couldn't understand what Ling Han was thinking. For example, he clearly wanted to show goodwill, but he coldly warned her not to tell Yi Huanyan that he prepared the soup. Why? You didn't poison the soup, did you? Ji Xiaoye couldn't hold back and exposed her inner thoughts. Ling Han glanced at her coldly. His tone was a little gloomy. If you want her to drink it and recover as soon as possible, and if you want her to leave pleasure group and not care about any self-righteous old feelings between us, then don't say anything. It was also Ling Han's words that made her hold back. Just as she took out the 2 recommendation letters, Ji Xiaoye looked at Yi Huanyan and saw that she didn't look too bad. She took them out and said, Yan, I have good news for you. All right, go ahead. You know Fengsheng magazine, right? When we were in college, all the students in the Academy of Arts racked their brains to get into it. Yes, I know. They started to cooperate with our company last year. Every year, they regularly shoot a collective cover for the company's artists. At the beginning of last year, Shang Anren was on their cover. When Shang Anren was mentioned, Yi Huanyan's face changed slightly. She seemed to be a little disgusted, and there was obviously a trace of forbearance on her face. Ji Xiaoye wasn't in the mood to hear anything wrong from her words. Her mind was full of how to persuade this woman, who was only devoted to Ling Han, to take the initiative to quit her job and run to a better future with her. Now there's an opportunity. Let's work at Fengsheng together. What do you think? She said casually, and Yi Huanyan didn't take it seriously. She drank a mouthful of fish soup and said lightly, What do you mean? It's not like I don't have a job. What if you don't have a job? Ji Xiaoye suddenly became serious. Don't forget that the travel plan can't be completed according to the company's requirements. Ling Han wants the 2 of us to quit. The military order has been made. What if it doesn't succeed? Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. She looked at Ji Xiaoye suspiciously. What are you trying to say? She suddenly mentioned Fengshang, suddenly talked about quitting, and suddenly beat around the bush. Ji Xiaoye frowned and took out 2 recommendation letters in her hand. These are the recommendation letters from Fengshang. The 2 of us can take these directly to Fengshang's editor-in-chief, and we can be hired directly. The annual salary of the position is the same as that of Fengshang, and we can do the things we like. Think about it, those bags, perfume, shoes. We deal with these every day. How many women dream of Xiaoyu? Yi Huanyan suddenly put the thermos of fish soup on the table. Her face was stiff. Where did these recommendation letters come from? Why do we have to leave? Yen. Ji Xiaoye saw that she didn't look good, so she quickly explained, isn't it better to start over in another place? Xiaoyu, we haven't failed yet. The deadline hasn't arrived yet. How do you know we can't complete it? Her anxious tone made it sound as if she had been betrayed. Did you meet with a setback at Guan Nai's place? It's okay. I'll talk to her. Ji Xiaoye looked at her and frowned even more. Ling Han gave them to me. She interrupted Yi Huanyan's hopeful blueprint prospects. Her words cut off the last trace of hope she had. It was Ling Han who asked us to leave, not me. No matter how hard you work, it's useless. The boss doesn't appreciate you, or even hates you. He wants you to leave as soon as possible. This has nothing to do with your ability. It has to do with you as a person. Yi Huanyan, do you understand? The subtext behind those words was written all over Ji Xiaoye's face. There was a trace of pity in her eyes. This kind of pity made Yi Huanyan's heart gradually turn cold. The color on her face, which had instantly improved because of her anxiety, disappeared bit by bit. She stared blankly at Ji Xiaoye, her eyes dim. Yen, start over in another place. Although I don't know what exactly happened between the 2 of you last night, it's pretty much the same as before. What kind of life have you had for the past half a year? How much longer are you going to humiliate yourself? Do you owe him? Do you owe him? Yi Huanyan? She slowly lowered her head. Her fingers touched the recommendation letter on the table. Her voice was a little choked. Xiaoyu, it seems like I really do owe him. Ji Xiaoye cried out in alarm. She watched as the recommendation letter was torn into pieces in Yi Huanyan's hands. The pieces scattered on the snow-white bedsheets like butterflies fluttering in the wind. They lost their lives and fell to the ground one after another. What are you doing? She grabbed her hand, but it was too late. Xiaoyu, Fengshang is a place that you like. If you want to go, you can go. I can't go. You're still thinking about him? You still like him? Are you crazy? Ji Xiaoye's face was filled with anger and disbelief. She was so angry that her head was about to explode from her disappointing best friend. Just take it that I'm crazy. I want to be discharged. Hey, what are you doing? There's not much time. I have to talk to those clients and artists. Talk to your sister. Can you even go out in your current condition? Ji Xiaoye held her forehead with a speechless expression. Yi Huanyan, sit down. I have a piece of news. Do you want to hear it? It's about the company's plans. Chapter 96. Ji Xiaoye was so angry that she glared at her with her big eyes. I really have to hand it to you. The company's travel plan was originally a matter for the planning department. Ji Xiaoye had been working in the planning department when she first joined the company, so she knew a little about it. That day, when she went to look for Guan Nai, she had randomly picked an artist to test the waters. After using all kinds of methods, she finally found a common pattern among artists. Don't you know what they like? She sighed. I called you yesterday afternoon to talk about this, but when you picked up the phone, you were incoherent. I felt that something was wrong, so I called a cab to look for you. In the end, you ran out of your house and didn't say anything. Yi Huanyan looked confused. Of course I know what you're talking about. That's why I've been spending the past few days figuring out what those people like. That's so inefficient. Ji Xiaoye interrupted her explanation mercilessly. Have you ever thought about the relationship between our clients and our artists? Such a hint was already very obvious. Yi Huanyan frowned. You mean to let them? The company's clients were all rich businessmen. Among them, there was no lack of rich second and third generations who held shares in their families. These people liked to go to places with beautiful women the most. For example, nightclubs were always full of different levels of quality. However, it was different for artists' gatherings. To be able to survive in this industry, looks were the most important thing. From the perspective of female artists, they naturally hoped to marry into a rich family. No matter how good they were in the entertainment industry and how successful their careers were, it was naturally not as good as marrying into a good family. She had actually thought about this before, but she only thought that it would be easier to persuade the clients. She didn't think of hinting that the artists would have clients. I understand. Thank you, Xiao Yu. She lifted the blanket and looked like she was in a hurry to leave. Hey, I've already told you the idea. Where do you want to go? I have to confirm the list of people and book the tickets tomorrow night. I don't have time. Damn you, sit down. Ji Xiaoye was furious. Did I say that I wouldn't help you? Yi Huanyan was stunned by her roar. I haven't resigned yet. I'll help you with these things. I promise that the list will be finalized by tomorrow night. I'll also book the flight tickets, hotel, and rental of the amusement park over there for you, okay? Xiao Yu. You don't have to thank me. Seeing that Ling Han recommended me to Feng Shang, this is the last thing I can do for him before I leave. Once this is over, Yan Yan, take care of yourself. Ji Xiaoye's expression was a little gloomy, and her tone was much more serious than usual. Yi Huanyan also realized that she was really angry. For a moment, he didn't know what to do. Xiao Yu. Ji Xiaoye felt terrible in her heart. She thought about how they had spent so many years together. She didn't know how long these days would last. Suddenly, she had to pack up and leave. Thinking of this, she couldn't control her tears. You rest. Drink the fish soup. I'm going out for a walk. Looking at Ji Xiaoye's back, Yi Huanyan gripped the bedsheets and choked up. She knew why Ji Xiaoye was sad and angry. The position of Huan Yu's CEO's secretary was not suitable for her. Even though she laughed every day and said that she was an idle person who was flaunting her high salary in the company, she knew better than anyone that that idle job was actually a form of oppression for Ji Xiaoye. People had to show their value in life. The position that Ling Han gave to Ji Xiaoye didn't show her any value other than letting her eat, drink, and play. She was not happy. So when the pie of Feng Shang fell on her head, she accepted it without hesitation. She really hoped that she would leave with her and leave that depressing secretarial office. It sounded like a good future, but Yi Huanyan couldn't accept it. Last night, she had a dream. In the dream, she asked Zhang Mailan why she did such a thing. She interfered in someone else's marriage. She even didn't hesitate to go against a terminally ill woman. She even dared to hire a murderer, something that she didn't even dare to think about. In the dream, Zhang Mailan's figure was a little blurry, but her voice was very clear. Yan Yan, I don't want you to suffer. You don't deserve to live like that. She had heard Zhang Mailan say such words many times. After waking up, she sat by the bed and thought for a long time. Thinking back to the number of times she had heard these words, she didn't realize that she had heard these words many times. When Zhang Mailan spent money to let her go to the best high school in Lanjiang City, when she first met Lu Shan in high school, when Zhang Mailan took her to eat the expensive but delicious Western food next to the school for the first time, when Lu Shan's mother humiliated Zhang Mailan when she saw her, and when Lu Shan went abroad. That evening, the plane flew over Lanjiang City. After she skipped class, she hugged her broken piggy bank and lay on the bed crying until she lost consciousness. Zhang Mailan received a call from the school and rushed home. She knocked open the door and hugged her in her arms with a guilty look on her face. Yan Yan, I won't let you suffer in the future. I'll give you the life you deserve. Don't cry. Although she never understood what the life she deserved was, Jiang Milin used practical actions to tell her what kind of life she deserved. There were people to send her to and from school. She lived in a 3-story villa and had 4 nannies around her. She didn't even have to wear her own clothes. Regardless of her grades, her family had ways to let her go to the school she liked. When she was in university, she never had to worry about her bank balance being insufficient. These were the lives that Jiang Milin brought to her in the next few years. Therefore, she couldn't say that Jiang Milin had nothing to do with her. If it wasn't for those words, if it wasn't for a better life, if it wasn't for her, she believed that Jiang Milin wouldn't do that. Therefore, she had let down Ling Han's mother and Ling Han. Therefore, even if she had to leave pleasure, she had to leave with dignity. At the very least, she would help him get what he wanted. It could be considered as repaying her mother's debt. Then, she would leave on her own without anyone's recommendation letter. During this period, no matter how Ling Han humiliated her, she was willing to accept it. Everyone has something that they have to bear. After you accept it, you won't feel so uncomfortable. She comforted herself and repeated it in her heart over and over again. However, when Ji Xiaoye returned from outside, her eyes were red and she still felt extremely wronged. She leaned into Ji Xiaoye's arms and cried loudly just like that evening 10 years ago. Chapter 97. Yi Huanyan rested in the hospital for 3 days. During these 3 days, Ji Xiaoye used the professional skills that she had accumulated over the past 3 years to deal with the matters that the entire planning department was helpless against. 3 days later, she printed out the flight information in a document, planned out the list of each artist's entourage, and booked the hotel. Then, she handed it all to Yi Huanyan. Yi Huanyan took the document, which was the first time she had enjoyed other people's work since she started working, and walked into Ling Han's office with her head held high. President Ling, these are the documents from several departments today. I need you to take a look at them. Okay, put them there. Ling Han did not look up. His tone was a little indifferent. Since you're going to leave these things to the newcomers. Otherwise, the newcomers won't be able to familiarize themselves with the business as soon as possible. I'm going to suspect that you have ulterior motives. Yi Huanyan did not refute. She just looked at him indifferently. President Ling is right. Alright, this is the approval for the project budget for this trip. The amount exceeds the department manager's approval authority, so it needs your signature. Okay. Ling Han frowned. The company's trip plan? You're done? Yes. Yi Huanyan smiled slightly. Ling Han's face flashed a strange look. When he signed, he sneered. No one can say for sure whether the clients and artists will all be there. Yi Huanyan's expression froze. She said indifferently, as long as President Ling doesn't interfere, I don't think anything unexpected will happen. Anyway, you don't plan to stay at pleasure. Why do you have to be so pretentious? You have to finish what you started. This is what Uncle Ling taught me. At the mention of Ling Dongming, Ling Han's face darkened. He emitted a gloomy aura. The document in his hand was thrown directly in Yi Huanyan's direction. It hit the ground with a harsh sound. You're done signing. Take it away. Thank you, President Ling. Yi Huanyan's back was tall and straight, with a hint of stubbornness. Ling Han gradually frowned. After experiencing such a night, this woman still dared to appear in front of him and spout nonsense. She was really reckless. Walking out of Ling Han's office, Yi Huanyan inexplicably heaved a sigh of relief. Everything was laid out in front of her. Although it was shocking and cruel, it was better than being humiliated without knowing anything. Ji Xiaoye stood at the entrance of the secretary's office. She held her suitcase in her hands and forced a smile. Have you packed everything? Yes. It's rare for so many people to go on a trip in the company. Why don't you stay and go on a trip at the end of the month? I don't think so. I don't dare to take money in this position. If I take advantage of this opportunity to go out and have fun, I'm afraid my reputation in the industry will be in a mess when I come back. You care about the reviews too. Of course I care. I'm going to be a member of Fengshang in the future. Come and see me when you have time. At this point, Yi Huanyan couldn't help but feel a trace of sadness in her heart. Why do you make it sound like you're going to part forever? Hearing this, Ji Xiaoye sniffled and choked with sobs. I'm afraid that if I leave here, you'll be tortured to death by someone. Yi Huanyan's nose twitched, and her eyes turned red. Xiao Yu. Okay, I won't talk to you anymore. I have to report to Fengshang in the afternoon. I haven't gone through the procedures with the HR department. I'm leaving. After saying this, Ji Xiaoye turned her head and hid her tears in a place where Yi Huanyan couldn't see. They fell into the suitcase in her hands and she walked toward the elevator. Standing at the entrance of the secretary's office, Yi Huanyan looked at the back of her best friend. For a moment, she was absent-minded. Fengshang was famous for being busy. They didn't even have time to rest on weekends. In the future, they would definitely have fewer chances to see each other. She didn't know if the people there would bully her. After all, this girl's taste in clothes wasn't that good. Her phone suddenly rang with the sound of an incoming message. She came back to her senses and took out her phone from her pocket. Yen, take care of your body. Remember to eat. Since you've decided to stay, you must remember that your body is your capital. Although I really don't like a bastard like Ling Han who doesn't mean what he says, I also believe that he has feelings for you. So, you have to work hard. Alright, he was the one who asked me to send the chicken soup to the hospital. I hope this news can give you some comfort. Ji Xiaoye had thought about this message for a long time before sending it. In fact, according to her selfish desires, she couldn't wait for Yi Huanyan to realize that Ling Han was an inhumane person in an instant. Then, she would immediately leave this sad place of pleasure. But from Yi Huanyan's perspective, she thought about it for a long time. Loving someone was just that unreasonable. Even if you were good or bad, beautiful or ugly, the only thing she wanted in her heart was for the person she loved to love her back. During this period of time without her company, perhaps the only thing she could rely on was Ling Han's insignificant and pitiful care for her. He was her only pillar of support. When she walked out of pleasure, Ji Xiaoye took out her phone and glanced at it. Thank you, Xiao Yu. I don't think I'll give up. When I do, I'll leave without you persuading me. Looking at this message, Ji Xiaoye sighed helplessly. Then, she looked up at the sky. She sincerely hoped that one day, her best friend would be able to walk out of the cage in her heart. A week later, it was Pleasure Group's employee benefits and customer feedback holiday. The day before departure, Yi Huanyan brought the company's employee list to the president's office for signature. Then, she handed it over to the finance department for reimbursement. When it was time for signature, Ling Han flipped to the section about the president's assistant team, but it was blank. Xiao Mu was busy with her company in Shanghai and did not have time to participate. Ji Xiaoye had just left, and Yi Huanyan, who was supposed to appear on the list, was not there either. The new secretary had not officially taken office yet. As for the other two male assistants in charge of assistant affairs, they were busy with their own things. Where are the people in the assistant team? He asked. Assistant Qiao can't come. Secretary Ji just left, and the new person hasn't been hired yet. Assistant Qiao's two assistants also have work to do, so they can't go. What about you? Do you have something to do? Ling Han's gaze was a bit cold. Yi Huanyan was slightly taken aback. I'm not feeling well, so I won't go. Before she finished speaking, she saw that Ling Han's expression was not very good, so she quickly explained. I heard that Shang Anren is accompanying you. Miss Shang should be able to take care of your affairs, so I don't think I need to go. I'm going out to play. I don't think President Ling wants to see me. Go out to play? Ling Han sneered. What about the client's contract renewal? I seem to have said that your work is included in the travel plan this time. You're not going out to play. Yi Huanyan's face froze. She had a sliver of hope that he would forget about what he had said before, but she did not expect that she had underestimated his memory and his desire for revenge against her. There were two clients in the travel plan. They were the two big clients that she needed to negotiate with after taking over Chow Mu's job. She did not want to refuse, but Shang Anren was also going on this trip. Yi Huanyan felt that she did not have the ability to calmly face Ling Han and Shang Anren's flirting in front of everyone. I think I can talk to the clients after the trip is over. Perhaps the trip will go smoothly, and the clients will be in a good mood. I can't wait. Ling Han rudely interrupted her. You have to go. Chapter 98. Ling Han's words of, "You have to go," destined Yi Huanyan's trip to be extraordinary. Fortunately, Ling Han and Shang Anren's plane was full. At least they didn't have to look at their faces on the road, which Yi Huanyan felt very gratified. After confirming the flight information again before getting off work, she breathed a sigh of relief, turned off the lights, closed the door, and clocked out. The lights in Ling Han's office were still on. She didn't want to ask for trouble, so she tiptoed away. After she left, the sound of a phone call rang in Ling Han's office. Confirm Yi Huanyan's flight information. Just change with any artist. After work, Yi Huanyan didn't return to the villa in Jinjiang Court. Ever since that night in Jinjianjuan, Yi Huanyan had dispelled the idea of moving back to live with him. The day before, she came out of the hospital and went straight to Ling Dongming and Jiang Mailan's house in Dongqing district. It was said that Ling Dongming bought that house when he married Wen Qingwan. Later, Jiang Mailan and Yi Huanyan moved in. In her memory, Jiang Mailan mentioned several times that she wanted to change houses, but Ling Dongming refused on the grounds that he was used to living here. Although there were a lot of properties under her name, Jiang Mailan couldn't leave her husband and live in another house alone. In the end, she had no choice but to live here. Now that she stepped into the house again, Yi Huanyan felt a little cold all over. After Ling Dongming and Jiang Mailan passed away, the house was empty. The aunties who helped cook and clean here were all dismissed, leaving an empty house and a house full of old things that were covered up. After returning from work, Yi Huanyan was a little tired. She turned on the lights in the whole house, then sat on the sofa in the living room wrapped in a blanket. However, when she closed her eyes, her mind was full of nightmares. She woke up many times that night. She always felt that there seemed to be a figure in the corner of the house. Just like that, the night passed in a muddle-headed manner. The next day was clear, destined to be good weather for a trip. Early in the morning, Yi Huanyan was woken up by the sound of the whistle at the door. The person who came was Ling Han's new assistant, Xiaodong. He stood at the door in a suit. When Yi Huanyan saw Xiaodong from the surveillance camera at the door, her expression froze. She hesitated for a moment before opening the door. "Secretary Yi, President Ling asked me to take you to the airport. Come in and have a seat first. I still have some things to pack. Wait for me for a while." "No need, I'll wait at the door." Xiaodong looked a little uneasy. "It's fine. Sit anywhere you like. There's no one else in the house." Yi Huanyan smiled faintly and turned around to grab a pair of slippers at the entrance, looking very courteous. Xiaodong couldn't refuse. He changed into slippers and sat down on the sofa in the living room. "Secretary Yi, your house is so big." Although he could tell that Yi Huanyan's family background was extraordinary from her usual clothes and accessories, this was the first time he saw such a beautiful villa. The retro European-style decoration and the color of the furniture were a little dull, but there was a feeling of a long history. It was very classical and elegant. "It's okay. I'm usually the only one at home, so there's nothing good about it." Yi Huanyan poured a cup of tea and placed it on the coffee table. "I only have plain water here. Do you mind?" "Thank you." Xiaodong quickly got up and thanked her. "You're welcome. I'll go and pack first. Sit for a while. If you're bored, you can walk around." Yi Huanyan was not worried that the new assistant would find anything. This place was remote, and no one in the company knew that this was where Ling Dongming lived. After Ling Dongming and Jiang Mailan passed away, this place was cleaned up. Most of the things that belonged to them were sealed in the attic on the third floor. This house was originally going to be sold, but Ling Han didn't sell it. It was probably because he knew about his mother. Xiaodong was a polite and reserved person. Although Yi Huanyan said that he could walk around, he still didn't move. He just sat quietly on the sofa in the living room. This was what he had been taught since he was young. When he went to other people's houses, he shouldn't casually look at other people's things. Yi Huanyan quickly packed up and came out. She wore a simple white sweater, blue jeans, and white sneakers under a gray-blue coat. She looked very fresh. Because the company's group trip was set to be in Bali, the weather there was hot, unlike Lonjiang City, which had entered an extremely cold winter. She put the clothes she would change into on the plane in her bag. Although Dongqing district was located in a remote area, it was very close to Lonjiang Airport. It was only a 15-minute drive. After Xiaodong helped to carry the suitcase, he was in a hurry to rush back to the company. She was the only one left. She took a deep breath and pulled the suitcase to the check-in counter to exchange for a boarding pass. "You're flying to Bali. Do you check your luggage?" "Yes. Please give me a seat by the window." "Okay." After getting the boarding pass, she glanced at the time and her expression froze. "Isn't the flight at 10:30? Why is it 10 o'clock now?" The ticket information was correct. She had to carry her bag and rush to the boarding gate. Fortunately, she made it in time. Messier 84. After sitting in her seat, she looked at the information on the boarding pass and frowned. Was it this flight? Why did it feel different from the one she saw last night? Just as she was thinking, she heard a playful voice behind her. It sounded familiar. Her face froze. She slowly turned around and saw 3 people in a row behind her. They were clearly third-rate artists under pleasure. She had been looking for a seat with her head down and didn't notice them at all. Secretary Yi?" An artist in the back seat recognized Yi Huanyan with a sharp eye. His face was full of surprise. "You're on the same flight as us?" Yi Huanyan nodded embarrassedly. She turned around and took out her mobile phone to call the colleague who had helped her book the ticket yesterday. The artist who spoke was called Rui Shui. She could only be regarded as a third-rate artist in the company. She was young and had just signed the contract the year before last. She had met Yi Huanyan a few times. As for the 2 beside her, they could only be regarded as invisible people. They only played some small supporting roles in TV shows and movies. If they didn't have a chance to become popular, their contracts would not be renewed when they expired. The company never wasted resources on these invisible people. They could only rely on themselves to find ways, such as connecting with some financial backers or getting along better with the first and second sisters in the company. "Can I trouble you to take your bag?" A cold voice sounded beside her, interrupting Yi Huanyan's action of making a phone call. She was slightly stunned. Following the sound, she looked up and saw a deep 3-dimensional face full of exotic charm. It was Guan Nai. Guan Nai was the female star in the company, second only to Shang Enren. She had the passionate face of a minority ethnic group, but she put on a cold look every day. It was also because of this frosty style that in the hearts of her fans, she had the title of Cold Beauty. This was not the persona the company gave her. She was a very maverick person. It was said that her family was very rich. She came to the entertainment circle just for fun. When she signed Pleasure, it was when Ling Dongming was there. As for her specific situation, probably not many people knew about it except for her agent. At this moment, this cold beauty was looking at her coldly. Chapter 99. I said, take your bag. Guan Nai's voice was very cold. Compared to those sweet female stars, it was a little colder. Yi Huanyan froze and hurriedly took the bag that she had just put next to her. Sorry, I didn't know this was your seat. Her apology didn't get any response from Guan Nai. The famous cold beauty took out an eye mask from her small bag and ignored Yi Huanyan after she sat down. She was embarrassed. The broadcast was playing a reminder that the phone was turned off. She looked at the phone in her hand that she hadn't made yet and turned it off helplessly. Looking around, most of the people sitting in the cabin were familiar faces. Although Yi Huanyan didn't watch TV or movies, it was hard not to remember the faces of the female stars on the bus billboards. Ling Han and Shang Anren were also among them. Yi Huanyan saw Ling Han sitting 3 rows in front of her at a glance. Shang Anren was leaning against the window and was acting coquettishly to Ling Han about where to go after arriving in Bali. She frowned and took out a soundproof earpiece from her bag to isolate the outside world. Since she was here, she might as well make the best of it. When she was in a daze, the song in the earpiece ended and there was no sound. She vaguely heard the whispers of the female artists behind her. "Hey, who is this Secretary Yi? Why is she on the same flight as us? She is President Ling's personal secretary. She should be taking care of President Ling's daily life," Rui Shuer explained. Among these small artists, she was the only one who knew something about the head office. Taking care of his daily life? Isn't there Sister Anren? Could it be? Who knows? These are all company matters. Sister Anren is much prettier than her. Look at her face without makeup. I'm afraid President Ling won't like her. Most of these artists were not well educated, and their words were not logical. Although she knew that they were just looking for a topic to chat about, Yi Huanyan still felt her stomach churn. She took off the eye mask and covered her mouth to endure. A slender wrist caught her eye, and a bottle of mineral water was handed to her. She looked up and saw Guan Nai's cold face. Her eyes were as deep as 2 pools of spring water. She said faintly, "Can you lend me the earphones for a while? It's too noisy." The scattered voices behind him abruptly stopped. Yi Huanyan was stunned for a few seconds. The bottle of mineral water was already in her hands and the earphones were already removed from her head. Seeing the woman beside him slowly put on the blindfold again, then put on the headphones and continued to sleep calmly, Yi Huanyan felt an inexplicable sense of security. Guan Nai was a mysterious woman with an especially unpredictable personality. Even though Yi Huanyan couldn't tell if her actions were to help her out and interrupt the whispers behind her, or if she just wanted to borrow a pair of earphones because she was annoyed by the noise, Yi Huanyan still let out a sigh of relief. She even smiled at the 3 people behind her when she got up to go to the bathroom. From the faces of the 3 people, it could be seen why they were lukewarm. Their acting skills were so bad that the word "awkward" was written on their faces. She would pass by Ling Han and Shang Anren on her way to the bathroom, but she was in a hurry. She guessed that Ling Han probably didn't notice her. She washed her face in the bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror. She went out in a hurry in the morning and didn't put on makeup. In addition, she didn't sleep well last night. The 2 dark circles under her eyes were particularly obvious. The 3 people were right. How could she compare to Shang Anren, who was always radiant? There was a knock on the door. She had been waiting inside for too long, and someone outside was anxious. After taking a deep breath, she pressed the flush button of the toilet, then pulled the safety latch and looked at the person at the door apologetically. "Sorry, I'm not very." Looking into the person's eyes, the words that she had yet to finish were stuck in her throat. "President Ling. What's the matter?" he asked. Just now, when she passed by, Shang Anren suddenly said, "Isn't that Secretary Yi? You don't look well. What's the matter?" These words reminded him of her hospitalization during this period of time. After returning to the company, she had been busy with the group trip plan. Yesterday, she told him that she was not feeling well and did not want to participate in this trip. His heart suddenly tightened. He left Shang Anren and followed her to the bathroom. He did not notice the sudden change of Shang Anren's face behind him. "What's the matter?" Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. "You don't look well. Are you not feeling well?" Ling Han's inexplicable concern made her have an illusion that she shouldn't have. She touched her face and avoided his eyes. "It's nothing. I just didn't sleep well last night. Thank you for your concern." Ling Han was a little displeased with Yi Huanyan's cold tone and asked coldly, "How are you living there these 2 days?" "It's very good." Yi Huanyan looked over Ling Han's shoulder and looked at the curtain of the cabin. Through the gap, she seemed to see Shang Anren walking towards her. Her heart sank. "President Ling, if there's nothing else, I'll go first." She was so busy looking at Shang Anren that she didn't notice that Ling Han's face was gloomy to the extreme. When she was about to walk away from him, he suddenly grabbed her shoulder and pushed her into the narrow bathroom. With a click, he locked the bathroom door from the inside. Yi Huanyan stared at him. "What are you doing? Look into my eyes when you talk to me." The cold tone froze the narrow bathroom, and there was a faint anger in his eyes. Yi Huanyan didn't know why he was angry. She thought that she hadn't done anything to make him angry since last night. "What did I do wrong? Tell me clearly." Her eyes were red, and she gritted her teeth with a stubborn look. She was a person who wanted to die clearly. However, she did not know that Ling Han had been angered by her submissive attitude these past few days. Whether it was asking her to make a few cups of coffee at work, being picky about the temperature and sweetness of the coffee, or making her work late into the night, she seemed to have no temper and was at his disposal. What made Ling Han feel most uncomfortable was that after returning home from work every day, the house was suddenly cold and cheerless. It was just one less person. When Yi Huanyan was here, she didn't talk much. There should be no difference between her and not her. But he began to lose sleep again. After arriving in Bali, by the earliest flight back home. "I hope I'll never see you again when I go back on vacation." Ling Han tried his best to make his voice sound calm, but the fingers that were holding her shoulders were trembling. "You want me to quit? I've completed the travel plan. I won't leave." Yi Huanyan frowned and looked stubborn. "Yi Huanyan, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit." Chapter 100. Didn't you say that I owe you? I'll stay. How much do I owe you? I'll leave after I pay it all. You don't pay it all. How do you know if you don't try? Yi Huanyan bit her lip, almost bleeding. There was a knock on the door. "Han, are you in there?" It was Shang Anren's voice. Yi Huanyan stared at Ling Han with wide eyes. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, revealing a sarcastic expression. He leaned over to Yi Huanyan's ear and exhaled softly. "Do you want to try?" Her back slammed into the mirror of the washstand, and she felt a sudden chill under her long skirt. Not long after, her clothes were scattered, and the brown plaid long skirt was violently lifted up to her lower abdomen by a pair of hands. Her snow-white slender leg was lifted high by a big hand, and his knees separated her other leg hanging by the sink. It was a very shameful position, and without any warning, he fiercely entered. She groaned and bit the back of her hand. In pain, she turned her head with difficulty and pressed the side of her face against the mirror, trying to feel the coldness of the mirror, trying to keep herself awake. Ling Han's eyes were red. He held her legs and stared into her eyes. His eyes seemed to be full of the pleasure of revenge. The sarcasm at the corner of his mouth seemed to be ridiculing her for walking into a trap and abandoning herself. The sound of Shang Anren knocking on the door seemed to have a rhythm. It mixed with the impact in the bathroom and severely ravaged her nerves. She covered her mouth with one hand and endured wave after wave of crazy impact under her body. She didn't know how long Shang Anren knocked, but finally gave up. The sound of high heels at the door gradually faded away, probably to the other side of the cabin. Yi Huanyan put down her hand and couldn't help but let out a painful groan. Ling Han stared into her eyes and increased the frequency. A strange look flashed across his face. After the final thrust, Ling Han withdrew from her body. A scorching heat quickly spread from the lower half of her body to the rest of her body. Her toes and fingers curled together at the same time, and a hoarse sound came from her throat. Her whole body twitched for a few seconds before she sat paralyzed on the washstand with a flushed face. The man loosened his grip on her shoulders, and beads of sweat formed on his forehead. His breathing was heavy, and it was obvious in the small bathroom. He lowered his voice and whispered into Yi Huanyan's ear. "Don't you want to repay your debt? I'll satisfy you." At this time, the flush on Yi Huanyan's face had receded and was replaced by a sheet of white. Cold sweat trickled down from her forehead. Her lips had been bitten and were bleeding, but her eyes were filled with shame and anger. Ling Han let go of her body, leaned against the door, lit a cigarette, and sneered. Consider this my last gift to you. Consider it a warning. Leave as soon as the plane lands. This is your last chance. He sized up Yi Huanyan's body and his eyes were cold. You want to repay your debt? What else do you think you have other than this body that I'm tired of playing with? Yi Huanyan gritted her teeth and struggled to get off the washstand. Her legs trembled, and she barely managed to steady herself by holding on to the washstand. She took a deep breath and tried to make her voice sound calm. Have you enjoyed yourself, President Ling? Hearing that, Ling Han's eyes flashed with astonishment. If you don't say anything, I'll take it that you've enjoyed yourself. She lifted her underwear from her ankles. Although she was in a mess, she moved slowly. Then, with her back facing Ling Han, she turned to the mirror and tidied her clothes meticulously. Ling Han's face stiffened. He put out the cigarette and slammed the door without looking back. I've given you a chance, but you don't want it. Don't regret it in the future. When I let you go, you should go. After Ling Han left, Yi Huanyan put her hands on the washstand and her tears fell into the sink. Physical pain, mental torture, self-esteem trampling, I'll give you all these. I'll give you everything you want. Is that enough? When Yi Huanyan returned to her seat, her face was as calm as usual. After half a year of being Ling Han's secret lover, she had already familiarized herself with the two roles. In front of everyone, she would always be Secretary Yi and would not have anything to do with Ling Han's private life. When she sat down, she felt the pain in her lower body and took a deep breath. Guan Nai, who had just taken off her eye mask and touched up her makeup, frowned slightly. She took in her expression and put the earphones beside her. I'll return the earphones to you. Thank you. Yi Huanyan nodded weakly. She leaned against the seat and closed her eyes drowsily. Guan Nai finished her eyeliner in front of the makeup mirror. She turned her head and glanced at Yi Huanyan, who was holding her arms and trembling. She frowned slightly and turned to call the stewardess. Can I trouble you to bring another blanket over? Okay. When Shang Anren came out of the front cabin, she saw that Ling Han had returned to his seat, so did Yi Huanyan. The bathroom door that was closed just now was open, and there were several water stains on the washstand. She returned to her seat and hesitated for a moment. Han, where did you go just now? I couldn't find you. Bathroom. He answered casually. Shang Anren pursed her lips. I knocked on the bathroom door, but no one seemed to respond. You? Maybe he didn't hear it. Ling Han seemed a little impatient and closed his eyes. She frowned and slowly turned around. Her eyes fell on the weak figure behind the third row, and a cold light flashed in her eyes. It turned out that the little goblin she had been looking for so long was hiding beside Ling Han. Secretary Yi was really hiding. She dared to snatch people from Shang Anren, but she would not have a good end. Guan Nai, who was sitting beside Yi Huanyan, just put away the makeup mirror. She followed Shang Anren's gaze and glanced at Yi Huanyan. There was a trace of hesitation in her eyes. The direct flight from Lonjiang City to Bali took 8 hours. They set off in the morning and had lunch in the restaurant on the plane. Yi Huanyan was not feeling well and had been sleeping. She was not in the mood to eat at all. In the restaurant, the space was spacious. There were 4 people at a table. Ling Han was not in the mood. He left from the dining car after eating 2 mouthfuls. Shang Anren hesitated for a while and did not catch up with him. Anran, haven't you always been wherever President Ling is? President Ling has already gone back, and you're busy losing weight and not eating. Why are you sitting here with us? Sitting with Shang Anren were several artists with higher positions in the company. They usually made fun of each other. At the moment, it was very ironic in Shang Anren's ears. Her eyes were a little unfocused. Suddenly, she picked up the juice in her hand, left the table without looking back, and walked toward the corner. Sitting in the corner were the 3 artists who had been sitting behind Yi Huanyan. At the moment, they were discussing the vacation in Bali in full swing. Is this seat taken? Sister Anren? Several people were surprised to see Shang Anren coming over. No, no one, please sit down. Shang Anren had always been high and mighty in the company. Generally, she did not easily have contact with third-tier artists like them. Where did the wind blow her here? Chapter 101. I don't have anything to do. Director Lee came to me for a movie before. There are several roles in it that haven't been decided yet. He asked me if I had any suitable candidates to recommend. I think the fat water doesn't flow into the field of outsiders. It must be someone from the recommendation company. I don't usually see you. Today, when I saw you on the plane, I think you are very suitable. Shang Enren's tone was very kind, which was completely different from the descriptions circulating among the company's artists. Rui Shui's eyes widened. You mean Lee Quan, Director Lee's movie? Well, I know that I suddenly told you this. Maybe I have to pick a time? You can think about it and then reply to me. No, we have time. That's right. How many people want to be in Director Lee's movie? Such a good opportunity, Sister Enren. Why do you take care of us so much? Thank you so much. The three people at the table looked at Shang Enren with almost grateful eyes. If this movie can really let us play, God, it's incredible. Shang Enren smiled slightly. It's nothing. It's just a little effort. If Director Lee likes you, there will be many film contracts in the future. Among the three people, Rui Shui had more experience in filming. In addition to being surprised, she faintly felt that such a thing as a pie falling from the sky was unlikely to happen to her. She asked a little hesitantly, Sister Enren, how did you think of recommending us to Director Lee's movie? After all, there were many female artists in the same studio as Shang Enren. For the sake of long-term interests, it was natural for her to support her younger generation. How could such a good opportunity be given to three unknown little transparent people? After all, we are all in the same company. If the company develops well, President Ling will naturally be happy. This is also my duty. When it came to President Ling, the three people looked at each other and smiled at the same time. Rui Shui was also a little relieved. Zhao Bingqing, who was sitting beside Shang Enren, smiled flatteringly. That's natural. We all know your relationship with President Ling. Sooner or later, you will be the boss of the company. Yes, that's a position that many people dream of. Lin Jie, who was beside Rui Shui, echoed. She had never been very good at looking at people's faces, and what she said was always inappropriate. Ahem. Rui Shui coughed twice, reminding her to shut up. Wasn't it obvious that he was coveting the boss in front of Shang Anren? Was he looking for death? She didn't know if Shang Anren heard it, but her expression changed slightly and she smiled. It's not easy to be the lady boss. There are so many young and beautiful girls watching. If you don't pay attention, your position will be taken by others. Rui Shui thought that Lin Jie had understood the meaning behind Lin Jie's words. She was afraid that if Lin Jie was unhappy, the meat pie that had fallen with great difficulty would fly away from her mouth. Speaking of youth and beauty, who can compare to you by President Ling's side? Don't worry too much. The two people beside him quickly followed suit. Shang Anren looked at them meaningfully, and a contemptuous smile flashed in his eyes. Sometimes, the more inconspicuous a person is, the more he has big ideas and ambitions. I didn't see it before. The three of them looked at each other, not understanding the meaning of Shang Anren's words. I just saw Secretary Yi on the same plane as us. It's really strange. I heard that she was supposed to take over Assistant Qiao's job and stay in the company. Shang Anren casually stretched out her hand and looked at her newly done nails. Men are usually animals who think with their lower bodies. Who will refuse someone who throws himself at them? It's just that some people don't know themselves. What do you think? Rui Shui's face changed slightly, and she exchanged a look with Lin Jie beside her. Sister Anren, you mean Secretary Yi? Shang Anren sneered. I can't rub sand in my eyes. If anyone has any improper thoughts about my things, I will do whatever it takes to make her understand what regret is. Lin Jie was timid. She pulled Rui Shui's sleeve under the table with a panicked look. Zhao Bingqing rolled his eyes and glanced at Rui Shui. Sister Anren, we don't have much interaction with Secretary Yi. In fact, we just met on the plane. Only Xiao Shui seems to have seen Secretary Yi before. Oh. Shang Anren raised his head and looked at Rui Shui. Do you know each other? Rui Shui's face stiffened, and she glared at Zhao Bingqing fiercely. She thought about it for a while and said embarrassedly, I don't know her. In fact, I don't like Secretary Ye's noble appearance. She's just a secretary. She acts like she's a daughter of a big family. That's right. Looking at Shang Anren's satisfied look, Rui Shui suddenly had an idea and hesitated. Sister Anren, in fact, you don't need to do this kind of thing. If we do it a little, I'm afraid her trip to Bali will not be easy. Isn't that bad? Shang Anren looked indifferent, but there was some satisfaction in his tone. Rui Shui raised her eyebrows and flattered. It has nothing to do with Sister Anren. We don't like Secretary Ye's style. We teach her a lesson and teach her to be a good person at work. Then, I'll contact Director Li when I get off the plane and ask him how many roles he needs. Hearing this, the three looked at each other. If they still couldn't figure out the purpose of Shang Anren's visit, they had been in the entertainment industry for so long in vain. Killing with a borrowed knife, Shang Anren really lived up to her reputation. She smiled slightly, stood up, lifted the corner of her skirt, and left the restaurant. The three people looked at each other, each with ulterior motives. What are you thinking? Lin Jie frowned and looked timid. Shang Anren is going to use us as guns. It was Zhao Bingqing who spoke. She seemed a little unhappy and glanced at Rui Shui. Xiao Shui, you dare to promise her? Rui Shui frowned and said in an unkind tone, Zhao Bingqing, shut up. If you didn't say that I knew Secretary Yi, would I be targeted by her? You almost got me killed. I didn't do it on purpose. Zhao Bingqing was a little guilty. It was undeniable that she did it on purpose. In fact, she had seen that Shang Anren was not kind. If they wanted to mix in, they could only rely on their support. If they didn't run errands to help, why would they support them? Now that things have come to this, don't you want to play Director Li's film? It's just a little trick to let the secretary suffer a little. Shang Anren just wanted to give her a warning and let her stay away from President Ling. She didn't know herself and dared to have thoughts about President Ling. What do you want to do? Seeing Zhao Bingqing take out a transparent eye drop bottle from her bag, Rui Shui and Lin Jie were slightly stunned. You want to? A trace of insidiousness flashed in Zhao Bingqing's eyes. Sister Anren just said that the quota is limited. Sisters, let's rely on our own ability. Chapter 102. Yi Huanyan fell asleep in her seat. When she woke up, most of the people who had gone to eat in the cabin had returned. Guan Nai, who was beside her, had changed into a refreshing white dress and was lying down with her eyes closed. She raised her wrist and looked at the time. There were still 4 hours before the plane landed. Thinking that there were still many things to do after the plane landed, she had to get up and go to the restaurant to find something to eat. There was no one in the restaurant, so it was quiet. The stewardess brought the food. She ate slowly alone and looked at the scenery outside the window. Above the clouds, large clouds of white cotton wool floated past, and the ground could not be seen. Secretary Yi, a sweet female voice sounded beside her. Yi Huanyan turned around and was a little stunned. My name is Zhao Bingqing. I'm friends with Xiao Shui. I'm sitting behind you. Yes, I remember you. Yi Huanyan forced a smile. Zhao Bingqing's smile was very sweet, and there was a small dimple at the corner of her mouth. She looked innocent. She pushed a glass of water in front of Yi Huanyan and waved the same glass in her hand and explained. I see that you don't look too good. Is it your period? I also got it in the past 2 days. This is the brown sugar water I just asked for from the stewardess. I also asked for a glass for you. Drink it while it's hot. Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned and Nuanyuan in her heart. Thank you. Although she was not on her period, being cared for by a stranger always made people feel that there was a trace of warmth in the world. Then you eat slowly. I'll go back first. Returning to her seat, Zhao Bingqing did not hide the pride in her eyes. Beside her, Rui Shui frowned and looked at her. Did you really put that thing down? Don't worry, it's just 2 drops. It's not a big deal. At least it can ensure that during the few hours on the plane, she won't have the strength to harass President Ling in the corner. Lin Jie's eyes were a little hesitant. Bingqing, why do you carry that medicine with you? Zhao Bingqing's face stiffened, and she was speechless for a moment. Rui Shui tugged at Lin Jie's sleeve. Don't ask. How many female artists didn't bring it on the plane? I dare say that even Shang Anren has prepared one. In the company's so-called group outing event, the artists would go for the rich businessmen, and the rich businessmen would go for the beautiful women. After the event, what kind of sparks could be created would depend on each person's ability. Whether the methods used were dirty or despicable, the people in the industry never talked about it. The one who could ascend to the throne was the winner. Just as they were about to land, the plane jolted. Guan Nai woke up with a start from the jolting. When she woke up, she realized that there was no one beside her. She frowned and glanced in the direction of the dining room. Yi Huanyan had not returned yet. Passengers, please pay attention. Our plane is about to land. The air stewardess's gentle voice sounded from the announcer. All the artists in the cabin were taking out their bags, touching up their makeup, and tidying up their clothes. Guan Nai frowned and pulled a passing flight attendant. The lady beside me hasn't returned yet. Please go to the restaurant and see if she's still there. The flight attendant was slightly taken aback. All right, I'll go take a look. The plane soon landed, and the artists went out one by one from the cabin door. Their faces were glowing, and the colorful dresses formed a beautiful scenery at the airport exit. Ling Han turned his head and glanced in the direction of Yi Huanyan, but he didn't see her. He frowned and turned to look at the cabin door. Anren, have you seen Secretary Yi? A strange look flashed across Shang Anren's face. He smiled slightly. No, maybe he left first. Secretary Yi should be meeting up with the other staff to handle the matter of checking in to the hotel for us. After the cabin was empty, the flight attendant checked one by one to see if the passengers had left anything behind. He saw a lady's bag in a window seat and was slightly stunned. He suddenly remembered that Guan Nai had asked him to pay attention to a person when he left. Thinking of this, he hurriedly picked up the bag and walked to the dining car. After the mealtime, the dining car was unguarded. At this time, it was empty. The flight attendant breathed a sigh of relief. Just as he was about to turn around and leave, he suddenly saw a slender arm on the carpet in the middle of the dining car. Yi Huanyan was woken up by a great pain in her philtrum. She shivered all over and opened her eyes suddenly. In front of her was the face of the flight attendant with a white face, with a panicked face. Miss, are you all right? Where am I? Yi Huanyan got up from the bed and looked around in surprise. The handsome flight attendant touched the sweat on his forehead and breathed a sigh of relief. The airport infirmary, you fainted in the dining car and were unconscious. It was our work mistake. Fortunately, the people in the infirmary said that you were all right. You were just too tired, so you really woke up after pinching your philtrum. Yi Huanyan covered her philtrum, which was painful from being pinched, and her face was pale. You mean the plane has landed? It landed half an hour ago. I haven't taken my luggage yet. Yi Huanyan's face stiffened. She lifted the blanket on her body and got out of bed. My companions are all gone? Miss Yi, don't worry. My colleagues have just helped you get your luggage. This is our mistake. I'm off work now, so I'll send you where you want to go later. The handsome flight attendant in front of her was the head flight attendant of the flight that Yi Huanyan was on. He was wearing a white uniform, and his 1.85 meters tall figure was very tall and straight. Probably because he had been working indoors for a long time, his skin was very white, and his whole person was sunny and elegant. When he looked at Yi Huanyan, he was full of guilt. Yi Huanyan slowly put down the hand that had been covering her mouth and asked a little embarrassedly, "How did you know my surname is Yi?" He hurriedly explained. "It happened so suddenly. I looked up your information so that it would be convenient for you to get your luggage from the baggage carousel. By the way, let me introduce myself. I'm Ling Han, the head flight attendant of this flight. I'm very sorry about this." Ling Han. Yi Huanyan widened her eyes and looked at him in surprise. Her reaction made Ling Han slightly stunned. "Is there a problem?" "No, nothing, I have a friend, also called Ling Han." A glimmer of light flashed in Ling Han's eyes. "Really? What a coincidence. I'm 2 o'clock, Han as in Han Fizi, so is he." Yi Huanyan smiled slightly. "You're 2 o'clock, he's left ear Ling, Han as in cold, just a little bit more. Your friend's hearing should be better than mine." Hearing this, Yi Huanyan was stunned for a few seconds, and then laughed out loud. "This joke is not funny at all. But you laughed." Ling Han's eyes showed a trace of slyness. "Let's go, my colleagues should have gotten your luggage. Where are you going?" "I'll send you." Yi Huanyan pulled up the corners of her mouth and forced a smile. She was not surprised that those artists in the same flight had left her behind. After all, there were no friends of hers, and the so-called companions were just on the same flight. "Miss Yi, please wait a moment." Just as she walked out of the door, someone suddenly called her from behind. She turned around and saw two people in local police uniforms hurrying over. Their faces were serious, and they spoke in fluent English. "Miss Yi, we suspect that you are carrying illegal drugs. Please come with us." Chapter 103. At the airport's police station, a group of people turned Yi Huanyan's suitcase upside down. Even her underwear was not spared. They checked very carefully, but Yi Huanyan's poor English was completely unable to understand what they were mumbling about. "Don't worry, they didn't find anything. They just heard from our captain that you fainted in the dining car, so they're a little worried." Ling Han comforted her. From the infirmary to the security station, the air steward had been with her, making her feel much more at ease. After the inspection, one of the police officers came over and mumbled something. Yi Huanyan looked at Ling Han blankly. "What did he say?" Ling Han gave her a comforting look, then exchanged a few words with the police officer in fluent English. He turned to look at Yi Huanyan and winked mischievously. "Okay, the matter is settled. Pack your suitcase, we can leave now." When they left the airport, it was already dark outside. "It's too late, why don't I take you out for dinner first?" Yi Huanyan hurriedly waved her hand. "I'm already very embarrassed to trouble you to send me to the hotel, so it's better not to." Although she said that, her disappointing stomach suddenly let out a growl. The sound was particularly obvious at the entrance of the airport, where there were very few people. Beside her, there was a soft laugh. Yi Huanyan looked up awkwardly. She could see that Ling Han was trying hard to hold back his laughter, but he couldn't hold it in and burst out laughing. Yi Huanyan touched her embarrassed stomach and said embarrassedly, "This is a normal reaction." Ling Han stopped smiling and said seriously, "Let's eat together. The restaurant is not far from the airport, and it's the same road as the one that sent you back to the hotel." Since it was like this, Yi Huanyan couldn't refuse. 10 minutes later, Ling Han took her to a seafood stall. The environment in the restaurant was not elegant, but the owner and lady boss were very friendly. They spoke in a language that Yi Huanyan couldn't understand, but the smile on their faces was very infectious. "How do you feel?" Ling Han placed his order and turned around to look behind him. Yi Huanyan pursed her lips. "Do you want to hear the truth?" "Of course. It's actually very ordinary. It's not much different from the seafood stalls in China." Ling Han seemed to have expected her to say this. He turned to the stall owner and said something. Then he looked at Yi Huanyan and smiled. "Come with me." He led Yi Huanyan out of the back door of the food stall, and they were greeted by the pleasant sea breeze. Her long hair fluttered in the wind, and her brown plaid skirt fluttered in the wind as if she was dragging a long tail behind her. There was a bright moon in the distance, reflecting a sparkling light on the surface of the sea, dragging a long shadow. The waves beat against the reef. Looking at it from a high point on the beach that was not man-made, it was a magnificent sight. "Wow, this place is so beautiful!" Her eyes lit up and she couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. "Our seat is over there." Ling Han pointed at the reef in the distance. The natural seascape barbecue was more peaceful than the bustling streets that were overcrowded after the opening of business. In addition, the taste of this seafood stall was indeed very unique. Their entire body and mind were released, and the gloominess of the day was swept away. "Do you come here often?" she asked excitedly. "Yes, I always fly here and there. I'm very familiar with this place. It's like a second home. Especially when I'm unhappy, I'll come here. When the sea breeze blows, everything will be forgotten." Looking at the silhouette of the woman standing on the reef with her arms wide open, Ling Han felt a strange feeling that he had never felt before. It wasn't that he had never met a woman before. In their line of work, they would meet all kinds of people, but this woman in front of him gave him a strange feeling. "Do you often bring girls here?" Her voice interrupted his thoughts. He was slightly stunned, and he smiled in her direction. "If I said that you were the first girl I brought here, would you believe me?" "Of course not." Her voice was mixed with the sound of the waves, and he could only tell what she was saying from the shape of her mouth. She tilted her head, put her hands behind her back, and smiled at him meaningfully. "A handsome and sweet man like you wouldn't come to such a remote food stall to eat alone, right?" Ling Han was slightly taken aback, and his gaze deepened as he looked at her. After a while, he shrugged and said helplessly, "Okay, I admit, this place was brought to me by a local girl. She was a very beautiful girl. Yes, very beautiful. She had a pair of eyes like sapphires." "You two were together?" "Yes, we were together." Ling Han's eyes suddenly dimmed. But then she passed away unexpectedly, just one day before the wedding. Yi Huanyan's expression changed, and her smile froze at the corner of her mouth. "I'm sorry." His smile was a little forced. "It's okay. After so many years, I've thought it through. Maybe it's because we weren't fated to be together. You. Her eyes are very similar to yours, like the stars in the sky." He sat on the edge of the reef, looking in the direction of the waves, and his back looked very sad. Yi Huanyan's eyes flashed with a trace of sadness. Love stories were always the most touching when they had tragic endings, and tragic endings were always the most memorable. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to mention this." She took a step in his direction, raised her hand, and patted his shoulder. "Can I hug you?" "You really look like her," he asked. Yi Huanyan patted his shoulder harder, and her eyes almost rolled to the sky. "Hey, that's enough. Sapphires like eyes, and they look like mine." "Are my eyes sapphires?" His lie to gain sympathy was exposed, and a trace of embarrassment flashed in Ling Han's eyes. He touched his shoulder that hurt from the pat and frowned. "Ahem. I was just joking. You're trying to gain sympathy and take advantage of her, right? I'm a man. If I really wanted to take advantage of you, this place is so remote. Can you hide? I've practiced martial arts. Do you want to try?" After a few words, the two stared at each other, and after a few seconds of stalemate, they suddenly looked at each other and smiled. "How many girls have you fooled with this kind of lame story?" There really are quite a few, but an exception like you're the first. These girls are too illogical. The scenery is beautiful, the people are beautiful, there are many people who come here to hunt. Who cares if what you say is true or false? I care. The false will never become true. Even if you deceive yourself, it's useless, and it will disappear in the blink of an eye. But the true will always be the most profound in my memory. Even if it's not so beautiful, it will still be the most profound. Just a moment ago, Ling Han had been treating this rather sweet-looking woman as a target for this flight, but after hearing her words, his heart had quietly undergone a change that even he himself wasn't aware of. He put away the flirtatious teasing and seriously looked at the woman in front of him. A naive yet mature woman. Chapter 104. In fact, the sunrise here is more beautiful. When Ling Han said this, Yi Huanyan's face showed a strange look. It's getting late. I should go back to the hotel. Don't get me wrong. I just want to say, if you have time later, can I invite you to come and see the sunrise? The sincerity in his eyes was very moving, and Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. Waking up from the infirmary, in a few words, she almost learned that the air steward, who was considered a warm man by most girls at first impression, was a man who was ambiguous by nature. He treated women with ease and directly showed how much he had a romantic past. She had seen more than one man who was romantic by nature. She almost didn't hesitate. She held the scattered long hair on her temples and smiled. Okay. He didn't know why, when he heard her agree so simply, Ling Han suddenly felt that he was being perfunctory. He couldn't help frowning. When he saw her flat face, this feeling became more and more obvious. He was sure it was not an illusion. There was an indescribable sense of mystery in this woman, which made her feel extraordinarily attractive. It seemed that she was different from the women he had met before. Her body was full of the temptation of purity and beauty, which made people want to have it. Bali Holiday Hotel. Presidential Suite. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows was a huge swimming pool. Hot beauties in bikinis were frolicking by the water. Looking into the distance, there was an endless coastline. Under the night sky, only the sound of the waves could be heard. Ling Han stood in front of the window and made 2 phone calls, both of which were turned off. His face was completely dark. At this time, Shang Anren just came out of the bath, put on light makeup, removed the beauty of the past, and deliberately made a bit of a pure look, but a piece of black lace pajama strap exposed from the bathrobe betrayed this artificial purity. Han, why don't you look well? She took Ling Han's arm from behind and showed a perfect smile. Are you hungry? I'll accompany you to eat. Ling Han frowned, looked down at the 2 phone calls that had been made without any response, and pulled his arm out of Shang Anren's hand. I have something to do. You can eat by yourself. Hey Han, where are you going? Shang Anren's questioning did not get any response. Her high-heeled shoes stepped on the cashmere carpet, and her scream was drowned in the loud sound of Ling Han closing the door. She sat down on the carpet and rubbed her ankles while taking off her black strappy high heels. She stared at the closed door for a few seconds, and there was a trace of coldness in her eyes. The phone beside her rang. She glanced at it, frowned, and picked up the call. What's the matter? Big Sis and ran. We saw President Ling go out. Looking at the direction, he seems to be heading towards the airport. Shang Anren's face became more and more gloomy. He clenched the high-heeled shoes in his hand, then raised them high and smashed them toward the door. The high-heeled shoes hit the door panel, making a loud noise, and fell to the carpet. The expensive custom-made high-heeled shoes were ignored at this moment, like discarded garbage. Late at night, Ling Han sent Yi Huanyan safely back to the hotel and carefully helped her with her luggage. You're staying in this hotel? Yes, what's the matter? What a coincidence. I'm going to relax here this time. After work today, I'll come here tomorrow for a short trip at the end of the year. But the hotel hasn't been booked yet. If I say that I'll stay here, you won't mind, right? Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned, then immediately smiled and said, The hotel is here, and it's not owned by my family. Of course, I don't mind if you want to stay. I mean, if I'm free, I don't know if I'll be lucky enough to meet you again. Ling Han blinked and added wittily, By the way, I'm very familiar with this place. I can reduce the possibility of you taking a lot of unnecessary detours. If so, of course, I'd be honored, but... Yi Huanyan shrugged helplessly. I'm not here for tourism, but for work. My colleagues are all staying in this hotel. As a behind-the-scenes staff, I'm afraid I don't have time to rest. A trace of loss flashed in Ling Han's eyes, but she still insisted, Not at all? It's the first time I've been rejected by a beauty like this. It sounds like an excuse. What should I do? I'm so disappointed. Yi Huanyan was shocked by his exaggerated disappointment. She spread her hands and said helplessly, "How about this? If you really stay in this hotel, when I'm not busy, I'll have time to listen to you explain the local customs here. We can walk by the beach and enjoy the sea breeze. Or like you said, we can watch the sunrise together. What do you think? Does this count as a promise?" Ling Han had a smile in her eyes. Her sly expression made her look like a fox. "Promise you what?" Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. "Go on a date with me." "Hey, that's not what I meant." Yi Huanyan pushed him a little embarrassedly. In a taxi not far away, a pair of deep eyes were filled with gloom. The driver's voice in English sounded in the car. "Sir, we've arrived at the hotel." The man pulled out a stack of local banknotes from his wallet and threw it on the seat. Then, he got out of the car with a cold face and walked towards the figure who was pulling her suitcase and preparing to check in at the front desk. Yi Huanyan gestured and spoke in broken English to the front desk. "Excuse me, help me with the check-in procedures." The front desk babbled for a long time. She barely understood a word that sounded like document. She hurriedly took out her ID card and handed it over. The procedures were completed quickly. The front desk lady took out the room card with a smile and handed it to her. Just as she raised her head, a large hand fell from the sky. Yi Huanyan watched as her room card fell into someone else's hand. She turned around in surprise and met a pair of cold eyes. "Where did you go?" It was obvious that he was questioning her in a sullen tone. This kind of question was just a kind of humiliation in Yi Huanyan's heart. He was clearly the one who left her alone at the airport. He clearly knew that her English was not good and she was unfamiliar with this place. How could he do such a thing? She had countless questions in her heart, but when the words came to her mouth, she swallowed them all back. "President Ling, I'm not feeling well. I came back late from the airport. If there was any work delay, I'm really sorry." The coldness in Ling Han's eyes was spreading little by little. The receptionist at the front desk was looking at the two of them in confusion. The entire hotel was almost booked by pleasure, and the artists coming and going were also looking at them with different expressions. Yi Huanyan suddenly realized something. She gritted her teeth and reminded him, "President Ling, please mind your words and actions in public." She actually dared to threaten him. She had really grown up. The coldness in his eyes had dropped to the freezing point. "Is that so? Well then, let's change to a place where no one is around to talk. President Ling, it's after work time. If you want to sleep on the streets after work time, then don't come." Ling Han held a room card between his index and middle fingers. He sneered and walked towards the elevator without looking back. Yi Huanyan's heart sank. She gritted her teeth and followed him. Chapter 105. The room card was placed against the sensor, and after a beep, the door opened automatically. Ling Han turned around and glanced at her with a cold expression. "Come in." Yi Huanyan pulled her suitcase and followed him in with a frown. At the corner of the corridor stood three indistinct figures. Their expressions were different, as if they had seen some incredible gossip. They looked at each other in bewilderment. As soon as she entered, Yi Huanyan leaned against the door. The man in front of her turned around and handed her the room card. Just as she was about to take it, a gust of wind blew past her ear. With a loud bang, a large hand passed through the air beside her right cheek and pressed against the door panel, closing the door tightly. Beep, beep, beep. The sensor beeped a few times, and the room returned to silence. She raised her head abruptly, and their eyes met. A pair of cold eyes. A pair of panicked eyes. "Where did you go after getting off the plane?" He enunciated each word clearly, and every word was filled with coldness. Yi Huanyan bit her lip. Her face turned pale when she thought about what had happened at the airport this evening and how she had suddenly fainted in the restaurant. "At the airport?" he sneered. Everyone has arrived at the hotel. Why did you stay at the airport for more than 4 hours? Why? Yi Huanyan raised her head in disbelief. Don't you know why? Speak clearly. Ling Han's face darkened. He didn't know what Yi Huanyan was referring to, but he vaguely realized that there was something wrong with her coming back so late. There's nothing to say. Please move aside. I'm off work. I just want to rest now. She glanced at the arm beside her from the corner of her eye. She made up her mind and turned around, trying to leave his binding range. Who's that man? She felt a sharp pain in her shoulder. Her cheeks twitched slightly. She frowned and asked subconsciously, What man? The man who sent you to the entrance of the hotel and was intimate with you. Yi Huanyan's face stiffened, and her frown deepened. She knew that if she couldn't explain clearly, there would be endless arguments and entanglement. She was very tired and just wanted to end this stalemate as soon as possible. Air steward of the airport, the flight we took. What I'm asking is, what does it have to do with you? Yi Huanyan raised her eyes to look at him. The anger in his eyes made her reveal a trace of astonishment. We just met. He's just sending me back. Someone you just met is so kind as to send you back? Yi Huanyan, do you have a brain? When she heard this, a thought that she couldn't believe flashed through her mind. Perhaps Ling Han was concerned about her? However, this thought was quickly dispelled. Instead, it was replaced by the thought that if he hadn't made a scene in the bathroom, she wouldn't have fainted at the airport. You're thinking too much. He's very nice. He even treated me to a meal on the way back. Her indifferent words caused Ling Han's expression to darken even more. You even ate with him? He frowned as the tip of his nose caught a whiff of smoke. Yi Huanyan lowered her head in silence. You have time to eat, but you don't have time to rush back to the hotel on time? The force on her shoulder increased, and she twisted it painfully. A painful groan escaped from her teeth. She gritted her teeth and finally reached the peak of her anger. She fiercely broke free from his shackles, pushed his arm away, and roared, I don't even have the freedom to eat with others? Ling Han, do you know that I fainted at the airport alone? When I woke up, there was no one I knew around me. I couldn't understand what they were saying at all. Where were you at that time? Don't talk about going back to the hotel. If no one had found me, I might have died on the plane. Are you satisfied? Her roar echoed in the room. Ling Han's arm hung in the air, still in the position that she had pushed away. He didn't come back to his senses for a long time. The coldness in his eyes hadn't dissipated yet, but a layer of astonishment appeared. You fainted at the airport? No one had told him about this. Yes, are you satisfied? Her nose was sour, and her eyes were red. Crystal tears welled up in her eyes, and she looked extremely aggrieved. Ling Han frowned and wanted to say something, but was interrupted by the sudden ringtone of the phone. Yi Huanyan caught a glimpse of Shang Anren's name on the phone from the corner of her eye. She gritted her teeth, raised her sleeve to wipe her tears, and walked out of his shadow. Without saying a word, she pulled the suitcase to the bedside to unpack. Her voice was very dull. President Ling, I want to rest. If you have any questions, I want to report to you tomorrow. Ling Han held the phone and stared at the thin back of the woman in a daze. A trace of regret appeared in his eyes. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't. The sound of the door closing behind her was not loud, but it made Yi Huanyan's heart tremble. After the door was closed, her fingers froze on the password lock of the suitcase, and she couldn't move anymore. Her tears finally couldn't stop, and they fell to the ground like broken pearls. She didn't know whether she was crying because of the pain in her shoulder, or because her heart was broken because of the man who hurt her again and again, or because she just felt wronged because of the bad experience of today. It seemed that a lot of emotions were mixed together. She wanted to vent, but she didn't even have the strength to speak. In the end, she could only let her tears fall, soak the sheets, and fall asleep. In the presidential suite, Shang Anren was holding the mobile phone, and her face was very ugly. There were photos sent by Rue Shui and others on the mobile phone. The picture of Ling Han and Yi Huanyan entering the room one after another was very clear. If it was just a suspicion before, then this time it was a fact. There was a noise at the door of the room. She closed the mobile phone and stood up from the sofa. When she saw the figure coming in, her face changed instantly, and she smiled. Han, you're back. Why didn't you answer the phone? What can I do for you? Ling Han frowned. I called room service to send some hotel snacks. I want to ask you if you want to try them. No, it's too late today. I have something to do tomorrow. Go to bed early. He looked dispirited and absent-minded. At the thought that he had just come out of Yi Huanyan's room, Shang Anren's eyes were full of jealousy, but she didn't dare to show it when Ling Han was present. Then I'll stay with you. Shang Anren reached out to hold his arm. No need. He raised his head, his eyes cold. Shang Anren's heart tightened, his hands hanging in the air, and his face was a little stiff. I see. Looking at the back of Ling Han walking into the bedroom, Shang Anren clenched her teeth, took back her hand hanging in the air, clenched it into a fist, and her red nails were almost embedded in the flesh. Her eyes swept over the snacks on the table, and her expression changed slightly. Over the past half-year, she has stayed with Ling Han. She may not have learned anything else, but except for these flowers and plants that don't know themselves, she is almost familiar with them. When Yi Huanyan was taking a bath in the bathroom, she heard a doorbell ring. It rang for a long time and didn't stop. She thought there was something urgent. She took a bath in a hurry, wrapped herself in a bathrobe and went out to open the door. Chapter 106. The security of the holiday hotel is very good. What's more, most of the hotel is booked by pleasure. All the artists of pleasure live on this floor. Yi Huanyan doesn't worry about any bad guys outside, so he opens the door directly. The woman standing at the door is tall and has the proportion of a model. Her chestnut wavy hair is spread over her shoulders. Her black floral suspender dress is very charming. Even women can't take their eyes off her. Miss Shang, what can I do for you so late? Yi Huanyan is stunned. I heard from Han that you just came back from the airport. I was afraid that you didn't eat, so I brought you some snacks. Shang Anren's face is calm, but there is some meaning in his eyes. Is it convenient? Can I go in? Yi Huanyan is stunned for a few seconds. He frowns and gives way. Yes. She is not very familiar with Shang Anren. The behavior of preparing snacks for her so late at night is either to ask her to do something, or to pay a New Year's visit to a weasel. He has no good intentions. She moves the clothes on the sofa to the bed and says embarrassedly, "Sit down. It's a little messy here." Shang Anren looks at her from head to toe. For the first time, he feels that Yi Huanyan is not as old-fashioned and serious as he usually looks. I'm afraid that he is frivolous to the home. Yi Huanyan dried her hair and wrapped it up with a bath towel. Then she pulled a chair and looked into Shang Anren's eyes. Miss Shang, you care about me so much because of President Ling, right? Shang Anren's face changes slightly. He is surprised that Yi Huanyan dares to mention Ling Han in front of him. Yi Huanyan lowers his head slightly and stuffs a strand of wet hair on his shoulder into the bath towel. He looks natural, as if there is no flaw. Although I am the secretary of President Ling, I only deal with work matters. If you have anything to say to President Ling, I may not be able to help. Secretary Yi, do you think I come to you to ask you to do something? Yi Huanyan's action of tidying up his hair is slightly stiff, and he slowly raises his head to look at her. If that was the case, then he was probably up to no good. Shang Anren raised one leg and gently overlapped the other leg, showing the smooth white long leg in front of Yi Huanyan. For a moment, the scenery under the skirt was visible at a glance. Yi Huanyan awkwardly looked away. Shang Anren's faint voice sounded in the room. In the past, I didn't realize that Secretary Yi had such a good figure. Those old-fashioned work clothes really wronged such a good foundation. If I said that you were an artist in the company, probably no one would refute. Secretary Yi is 26 or 27 years old this year, right? Do you have a boyfriend? It was supposed to be a compliment, but when it came out of her mouth, it made people panic. Miss Shang, this seems to be a private matter of mine. There's no need to publicize it. Yi Huanyan frowned as he looked at her, faintly realizing that she had come with ill intentions. Secretary Yi, I also understand that a person who has been working hard around Han for a long time may not have time to fall in love. If there is a chance, I would like to introduce some friends to Secretary Yi. No need. A look of disgust appeared on Yi Huanyan's face. Shang Anren suddenly laughed. So eager to refuse, Secretary Yi, do you have any favorite candidate in your heart? Her eyes flashed with cold light, and her face was faintly blue. Secretary Yi, I advise you to look for a man. You should wipe your eyes. You can't get close to anyone. At that time, you will suffer a loss. You can't get any benefits. You will also ruin your future. But the gain is not worth the loss. Yi Huanyan's face changed and gradually turned white. What do you mean? Shang Anren raised his eyes with a contemptuous look. I know everything about you and Han. You don't have to hide it. In this case, let's open the sky window and talk frankly. Say it. What do you want? I will satisfy you within the right range. I only have one request. Don't pester Han anymore. These days, people die for money and birds die for food. She believed that Ling Han would not marry a secretary without power and influence. Yi Huanyan should also know this, so it was better to seize what she could get when she could get something. Secretary Yi, you are a smart person. I don't have so much patience, so I hope you can make a decision now, and your decision will determine what attitude I will have to you in the future. I don't think you want to experience something like the airport again, do you? What happened at the airport? What? Secretary Ye's temper is so bad? You forgot it so soon? Looking at Shang Anren's proud face, she suddenly remembered that she fainted in the restaurant inexplicably. Before that, the little artist who didn't know her gave her a cup of brown sugar water. Yi Huanyan's face gradually turned ugly. She slowly took a breath and her face became cold. When encountering such a thing, she would have retreated if she could, but today, it was Shang Anren who went too far. Miss Shang, I was taught what happened at the airport. I admit that I was unlucky. But no matter what my relationship with President Ling is, I want to ask, in what capacity do you talk to me about this? The proud look on Shang Anren's face slightly stagnated. What do you mean? People all over the country know that she and Ling Han go in and out together and show affection on various occasions. The whole pleasure group treat her as the future Mrs. Ling and respect her. Now she is a secretary. Is she openly questioning her weight in Ling Han's heart? I don't mean anything. When Miss Shang reminds me to put my position in the right place, I also hope that Miss Shang can have self-awareness to put your position in the right place. If I remember correctly, President Ling has never officially announced to anyone who you are. In addition to the artists signed by the company, what other identity do you have, Miss Shang? She sneered. Or, what qualifications do you have to say these words to me? Yi Huanyan. Shang Anren raised her voice and was so angry that she couldn't speak. Her face was filled with anger. No one had ever dared to not give her face like this. Even those wild flowers and weeds by Ling Han's side in the past would turn pale when they saw her. With just a few words, they would be so scared that they would give up and not dare to have too much contact with Ling Han. Yi Huanyan is really the chief secretary of the pleasure group. She can enter the pleasure group as soon as she graduates. She has been the chief secretary for so long. She is really calm and has some skills. Yi Huanyan is not afraid at all. She looks at her coldly with her arms crossed. Miss Shang, I don't have the habit of eating supper. Please bring your snacks with you when you leave. I'll also give you a small suggestion. Don't eat supper at night and maintain a good figure. Perhaps you can stay by President Ling's side a little longer. Shang Anren clenched her fists and stared at her with gnashing teeth, as if she wanted to eat her. Wait for me. I don't mean to go against you, Yi Huanyan looked at the door and explained casually, I'm just a secretary. I do my job well, that's all. She meant to show goodwill, but her previous words had angered Shang Anren. These words were more like a demonstration in her ears. Chapter 107. Coming out of Yi Huanyan's room, Shang Anren's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Before returning to the room, he sent a text message and gripped his phone tightly. I want you to torture her to death. It's best to let her leave Bali as soon as possible. After it's done, you'll be rewarded. The next morning, Yi Huanyan went out early to prepare for the banquet. The banquet was on the beach near the hotel. Before coming, she had negotiated with the hotel staff. They would be responsible for the main layout. The host of the banquet would be Pleasure's own artist. Most of the complicated work had been communicated in China. Now she only needed to watch the banquet and not be lazy, so it was easy. When setting up the stage, she held the layout blueprint in her hand and directed the placement of various flower beds and carpets. Secretary Yi, where is the sound system here? Behind the background wall. Pay attention to the lines. Don't let the artists and customers trip. Is the bonfire ready? It's too late to make the bonfire at night, right? It's ready in advance in case there are any accidents at night. Okay, then let's go find the prop master first. I'll wait for you here. After a series of instructions, Yi Huanyan's face was full of sweat. She took out a bottle of mineral water from her bag and unscrewed the cap, only to find that there was not a drop left. The tropical area was indeed only suitable for lazily blowing the wind. Doing a little thing would make people collapse. Just as she was feeling annoyed, a hand reached out from within her sight. It was holding a bottle of iced mineral water. The outer packaging was dripping water, making people feel refreshed under the hot sun. Beauty Yi. A familiar voice sounded beside her. She suddenly raised her head and looked at the person in surprise. Thinking of what happened the night before, she smiled knowingly. You really live here? Ling Han was dressed in a blue floral holiday singlet and shorts. His whole person was very casual and lazy. His face under the sunglasses was very white and delicate, making people envious. Do I look like the kind of person who lies to little girls all day long? Ling Han blinked, looking a little playful. You look like it, but I'm not a little girl. After saying this, the two looked at each other and laughed tacitly. She took the bottle of mineral water from Ling Han's hands and gulped down a few mouthfuls, not bothering to hide her boldness. Ling Han had just finished the procedures for his shift last night, and he was still pulling his suitcase. It was obvious that he had not checked in yet, so Yi Huanyan took the initiative to bring him to the front desk. When our company made the reservation, we booked a few more rooms in case of emergencies. Now that everyone is here, it's not easy to return the empty rooms. Later, you can just say that you're from our company. Consider it as me offering you a gift of your own. Thank you for sending me back last night. There was a smile in Ling Han's eyes. Does this count as using your position for personal gain? If the boss finds out, it won't be good. It doesn't matter. Our boss never takes these trivial matters seriously. On the observation deck on the second floor of the hotel, a pair of deep eyes reflected the scene of a man and a woman laughing wantonly on the beach. The man's face suddenly darkened. He stood up from the recliner and strode into the room. At the front desk, Yi Huanyan took Ling Han's ID card and handed it to the front desk receptionist. She used broken English to explain that this was the first batch of company employees who had arrived after the flight was delayed and were preparing to check in. Ling Han, who was standing at the side, let out a mocking laugh when he saw how unperturbed her expression was. What are you laughing at? Isn't it good to save money for you? This hotel isn't cheap. You've earned back the barbecue you treated me to. Yi Huanyan's face was slightly red. After all, she was also offering him a gift of his own. She did not have to be so self-righteous. Ling Han restrained his smile. Why don't I use the money I saved to treat you to some other interesting things? Before Yi Huanyan could think of a reply, her gaze looked over Ling Han's shoulder and saw the figure striding over in the distance. Her face suddenly froze. Why was she so unlucky? Shouldn't he be eating breakfast at this time? Secretary Yi. The expected voice suddenly sounded, with a hint of coldness. Instead of helping to set up the scene early in the morning, you're fooling around with a strange man at the front desk of the hotel. Don't you want your job anymore? Ling Han, who was beside her, frowned and sized up the person. From his tone, he guessed that this person was probably Yi Huanyan's superior, so he helped to explain. Sir, I'm preparing to check in to this hotel. I'm just asking her to lead the way. Lead the way? Ling Han sneered. You were leading the way last night too? Ling Han was surprised. The front desk receptionist had already completed the check-in procedures and returned the ID card. She spoke fluent English and said that Ling Han was an employee of pleasure. With this, she directly exposed Yi Huanyan's intentions of using her position for personal gain. Her heart sank as she watched Ling Han walk past Ling Han and take the ID card from the receptionist. After glancing at it, he sneered and said two words meaningfully, Ling Han. Yi Huanyan swallowed. She felt that her throat was too tight and she couldn't say a word. She didn't know what Ling Han said to the front desk receptionist, but she felt that his expression gradually turned ugly. He snatched the ID card and looked at Yi Huanyan angrily. Miss Yi, I think it's better for me to check in to another hotel. Let's contact again when we have time. Yi Huanyan was confused as she watched him leave with his luggage without looking back. A meaningful sneer sounded in his ears. Ling Han. Yi Huanyan, you're really something. It's me who didn't satisfy you, so you went through so much trouble to find such a substandard substitute to satisfy your dedication, right? It was a naked humiliation. Yi Huanyan's face turned green. She looked up at him. What did you say to the front desk? You want to know? I said. Ling Han looked at her stunned expression and a playful look flashed across his eyes. He stuffed a room card into Yi Huanyan's hand and his breath brushed past her neck. It was extremely flirtatious. Come over at 9:30 tonight and I'll tell you. She tried to push the room card back but was warned by his cold eyes. It's your business whether you come or not. You can guess what I'll do if you're just a minute late. She actually didn't know what Ling Han would do. Perhaps he would punish her even more harshly, or perhaps he would threaten her with Ji Xiaoye's job like he did in the past. Actually, no matter how she thought about it, the funny thing was that she didn't have many things that belonged to her in this world. In the end, his threats were all because he was trampling on her love for him from the bottom of her heart. In the end, she was the one who let herself fall. She was the one who let others take advantage of her. She clenched her fingers. Sweat soaked the room card and her face was excessively pale. Chapter 108. At the beginning of the night, the beach was ablaze with lights. The artists who paid attention to skincare and dared not go out in the daytime came out in full force at this moment, competing to put on various small dresses, and actively made friends with various clients who could bring them resources. If they were lucky, they might find a financier who could promote them. This was the core value of this trip to begin with. It might sound like an unimaginable, lascivious party, but this was how the industry worked. Besides, everyone was willing. Even Ling Han couldn't casually interfere with this kind of effort made by an artist to climb up the social ladder. Yi Huanyan didn't plan to attend this kind of banquet where hundreds of flowers bloomed. After preparing for the carnival party, she went back to her room to change out of her sweaty work clothes. She wore a low-key loose black dress shirt, and her waist was nowhere to be found. Ji Xiaoye said when she saw this dress for the first time, "With your black bun, you are totally an old Taoist nun." Yi Huanyan was very willing to dress herself up as an old Taoist nun. In this way, no one would notice her in the crowd. She only needed to symbolically clink glasses with the artists and clients to make sure that they were not uncomfortable and had a good time. Then, her task tonight would be considered completed. When she met Shang Anren, she was surrounded by a group of small transparent artists in the company. A few compliments fell into Yi Huanyan's ears, which made her a little sick. She just wanted to avoid her eyes quickly. She couldn't afford to offend, but she could always hide. Secretary Yi is here too? Shang Anren's voice was sharp and thin, which sounded a little harsh. She still couldn't escape. Yi Huanyan had to face the difficulties. She smiled slightly with a wine glass in her hand and said in a serious official tone, "Miss Shang, is the banquet satisfactory? Are you having a good time?" Shang Anren looked at her dress, and a trace of strangeness flashed in her eyes. Isn't it inappropriate for Secretary Yi to dress so simply for such a big occasion? The surrounding artists all looked at him with disdain. Yi Huanyan smiled sheepishly. "I'm a behind-the-scenes worker, so I don't have to dress so formally like everyone else. As long as everyone has fun, it's fine." "What are you talking about? It's all thanks to Secretary Yi that we were able to complete this trip so smoothly. How can we let our great contributor be so shameful?" A faint light flashed in Shang Anren's eyes. "How about this, Xiao Shui? You guys take Secretary Yi to get changed." "That's a good idea. My figure is similar to Secretary Ye's. Let's exchange for mine." Zhao Bingqing looked very agreeable, for fear that others would not know that she and Shang Anren were on the same side. "No need, Yi Huanyan didn't expect that these weak female artists could be so strong." She was almost dragged away by the three people around Shang Anren, and she had no ability to resist at all. Secretary Yi, don't decline. Do you think we'll eat you?" In the midst of the tugging, there was the sound of clothes tearing in the air. Her expression stiffened, and her voice turned cold. "What are you doing?" The three people looked at each other. At this time, what Rui Shui tore in her hand was the zipper on the side of the shirt skirt. Without the support of the zipper, the whole armpit was completely open, and the black bra was exposed. Yi Huanyan covered her clothes and hurriedly hid in the dressing room. "Well, I didn't mean to. You don't be angry, Secretary Yi. I'll compensate you." Rui Shui stood at the door of the dressing room with a guilty face. Lin Jie hurried from the direction of the hotel with a bag in her hand. The dress. Yi Huanyan sat on the sofa in the dressing room, staring at the white evening dress in her hand, and her eyebrows were full of displeasure. Her intuition told her that the minions around Shang Anren were up to no good. The incident of the brown sugar water had made her miserable enough. What tricks did they want to play this time? However, since her clothes were torn, she couldn't just walk back to the wine room with her bra exposed. She could only sigh and accept her fate. She checked the evening gown from top to bottom. After confirming that there was no odor or intentional flaw, she reluctantly put it on. Because it was a strapless dress, there were also breast pads in the bag. She couldn't expose the shoulders of her underwear. She could only take off her underwear and put on the breast pads. She braced herself and walked out of the dressing room. The three people guarding outside the door saw Yi Huanyan come out. They all widened their eyes and looked surprised. She usually dressed conservatively, but at this moment, she didn't look dark at all in this white evening dress. Her white shoulders, small collarbone, and exquisite figure were very attractive. Zhao Bingqing couldn't help but secretly glare at Lin Jie, and her mouth scolded her for choosing such a suit for her. Lin Jie blinked aggrievedly. Rui Shui asked her to take the dress. "Like I said, Secretary Yi is a beauty. You will definitely be gorgeous in this evening dress." Rui Shui's mouth seemed to be smeared with honey, and she kept praising. Yi Huanyan couldn't stand the disturbance. She held the bag with her clothes and bra in one hand and the skirt in the other hand. Her expression was cold. "I'll go back to the hotel to change. I'll return it to you after I change. Hey, the swimming pool is lively now. Secretary Yi, don't you want to play?" "No, you can play." "That's a pity. It's rare to wear such beautiful clothes." Listening to the three people talking excitedly, Yi Huanyan felt disgusted to the extreme. Is it interesting to follow Shang Anren and mess with others? Don't think that you have done something great. She will look at you differently. If something goes wrong, you will be the first to be pushed out as a shield. Secretary Yi, what are you talking about? The three people guiltily avoided her eyes. What brown sugar water at the airport? Miss Zhao, there is nothing wrong with my brain. Such a low-level method. Please don't use it in the future. Yi Huanyan coldly glanced at Zhao Bingqing. I'm not in a good mood today. Please stay away from me. After saying this, she walked into the depths of the crowd without looking back. The remaining 3 people stood there and looked at each other, their faces more ugly than the other. They had to pass by the swimming pool to return to the hotel from the dressing room. At this moment, the swimming pool was bustling with people. Many customers gathered around the swimming pool to admire the attractive figures of the bikini beauties. Yi Huanyan lifted her skirt and walked a few steps before Zhao Bingqing shouted behind her. Secretary Yi, wait a minute, I have something to tell you. Yi Huanyan frowned and her face sank. What else do you have to say? Was there an end to it? I'm sorry about what happened on the plane. Zhao Bingqing stared at her with guilt in her eyes. But in our line of work, we are most afraid of offending people, so I had no choice. It really wasn't my intention. I promise I won't do such a thing in the future. I was blinded at that time. Her eyes were red and she looked like she was about to cry. Forget it, I don't intend to be calculative about these things. Yi Huanyan frowned even more. She looked around, afraid that others would think that she was bullying this pitiful little artiste. It's one thing to do, 2 things are the same. I think you won't be calculative about it. The voice in her ears suddenly became gloomy. Ha! Before she could react, she felt a heavy weight on her shoulders. She suddenly lost her balance and fell into the swimming pool. Water splashed everywhere. Her mouth and nose were filled with swimming pool water. She couldn't find any support on her body. Fear flooded her. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.